Chasin The Racin, powered by Colchester Kawasaki. Part of the Global Moto Group, we supply new Aprilia, Moto Guzzi, Vespa, Royal Enfield, Kawasaki, Sim, Mutt and Benelli motorcycles.
3, 2, 1, and welcome back to Chasin The Racin, episode 165, and we're down at Brands Hatch. Delighted to be joined by the 2011 British Superbike champion, Tommy Hill. How is it going?
Really well. Wow, sounds a long time you've been doing the podcast, but yeah, it's all going really well actually. Great to be back in the paddock again this year with the Rich Energy IMG Yamaha team.
He's still got it. He's
so
still
far,
got it.
so good. Yeah, got to keep it going. But no, it's been a fantastic year. I mean, I'm away from the track in the week, but the race weekend is nice to be around. A great team and two fantastic riders at the moment as well. So yeah, it's good.
I'm over the moon that you're on the show to announce that you're returning back into racing as well. So I'm glad you're doing that.
I would do if I can fit back in my levers, but I'm enjoying the hospitality too much. So no, I won't be doing that. The only racing I've been doing at the moment is like Goodwood Revival, which is great crack. Go down there and try and hold on to the vibrating handlebars.
How many times have you done that then?
I've done that about 5 or 6 times.
Have you?
Yeah, the Revival. Fantastic event and good chance to sort of blow the cobwebs off and have a little ride on the bike again.
How does going down the Goodwood route? How does it work? Don't you have to have 2 different aged riders to make an average?
Yeah, so we've got 2 old riders in our team.
Well, you're not old though. How old are you?
I'm 37 now.
Are you classed as the current rider?
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
No, I'm sort of.
You're the younger rider.
I'm an in between, but I hadn't rode for 5 years prior to the Goodwood event last year.
Who do you team up with?
So a guy, the Clues. So the Clues father.
Yes.
Andy Clues. So fantastic bunch. Bike's really well prepared. But yeah, you know what it's like. You get your helmet on and you're bashing bars against with Brywell and Hickey and the rest of them.
His son used to sponsor me with CB. He's got a CBD thing, hasn't he?
Yeah.
Sam.
I'm not sure. I know they're into a few little bits and pieces.
He's got a little bit side business to it. I don't know if he's still doing it, but he used to send. I used to have a big scar on my shoulder, and he used to send us the CBD.
Yeah. How have you ever even before you packed in from winning all these championships and everything like that? Have you ridden a classic bike before you went to Goodwood, or was that your first?
No, that'd have been the first time. But it's a bit of a shock and a bit. You're sitting there in the pits and you're looking at the spokes sort of going back and forth 2 inches and everything vibrating. And you remember as a rider, you sort of moan if the lever's 1 mil out of place, and you get on this thing and you're holding on for dear life. But and you try and remind yourself and pinch yourself to, you're there enjoying yourself and having the crack. And as I said, but when you put the visor down, everyone's got a race face on. And it's a fantastic event and nice to be a part of.
Was it on last year?
Yeah, last year it was.
It was last year. I'm thinking with COVID, the whole COVID crack. But are you back this year then?
Yeah, they've invited me back again, luckily.
Fantastic.
So yeah, good to get back there again. But being involved in a Yamaha team, I've just got that soft spot for Yamaha. I've spent nearly 15 years on a Yamaha, World Superbike, Super Sport, World Super Sport, British Superbike. So and also way back in the ATCC. So I spent about 5-6 years on a Yamaha then. So. Being involved in this team, you do get a bit of itchy feet. You're looking at the bike and the way the riders are going. So, I might see myself on the bike at the end of the year, hopefully.
Yeah, a few demo laps, maybe.
Yeah, hold on tight, yeah. But it's like you have such a long time off and I still try and keep fit and do a lot of cycling and there's nothing like being back on a race bike. So, we'll see.
Never say never.
No, never say never.
I tell you, we'll go... because I don't know a great deal about your sort of early years and whatever, so we'll go back and have a bit crack about that. But just to say... obviously, for people that watch the podcast every week, they'll notice that there's a bit of a change in Dom's looks. For the last
I put weight on the cheers, mate. I'm a bit sensitive.
For the last 2 months or so, he's always had sunglasses on, and then he's just had.
I'm hiding behind me cap these days.
Yeah, I'm behind his cap. But you had. Do you want to talk about what?
When's this pod going out? Monday.
Yes.
Right. No, I'm just trying to calculate a plan in my head of what I can say and what I can't say. You know what I mean? You've got to play the game, play it right there. You know what I mean? But no, so I've been, as everyone knows on this pod, and people who have just tuned in to watch you, Tommy, people might not know, I had an injury at work and ended up trying to swallow a chainsaw through my face. Ended up looking like a dodgy pirate that couldn't blink. So the great news is that Dr. Matthews, that I am fully aware will not be watching this, but if he does watch this by any chance, thank you so much. He did an outstanding job. So what they've done is taken a skin graft out the back of my ear and rebuilt the top side of my eyelid. Because what happened was, I had surgery for 3.5 hours, and it was just like, you're thinking,
Awake.
No. Well, unfortunately, I actually has to be awake because when they cut my finger off, I like to know what's going on. I've had surgeries and all sorts. I try and stay awake. I just want to know. I'm weird. You know, you don't know me very well, but you know well enough that I'm weird. So
I know what you look like now.
Dodgy.
With no sunglasses.
That's exactly it. And no, so he wanted to take the time to actually jump in because it was a severe injury. He just wanted to take time, but 3.5 hours. But the muscles actually grew to the indentation in my skull. So that's what was lifting. It's a thing called tension. So my eyelid was just dragging up and up and up. And I lost my ability to blink, which was causing dry eye, which was causing lack of vision. So what he's done is he's essentially put a spacer in. That's what he's done. He's rebuilt the top eyelid. So now I can actually shut my eyes at night and I can like have simple things like having a shower. You know what I mean? You just look like a kicked dog. You know, when you're like, Jesus, trying to like soap getting in your eyes. It's mental. So being able to go to bed at night and actually shut my eyes now is absolutely class.
It's a dream. Nice.
It literally is a dream. Literally a dream. So, and the good originally when he put my face back together the first time, you know, I actually used to be really good looking, Tommy. You know what I mean? I know you didn't know me before this. I was the good looking one on the show, and then I ruined it. But so. On the first time he built me face, he said, you're going to have another 2 to 3, and I'm still going to have another surgery after this one. But no, he's done it. He's done a fantastic job. So I'm over the moon. Thank you very much, Dr. Matthews, who will not be watching this, but thank you very much.
Good.
There we go.
So going back to the start. Are you originally from a racing family? Are your parents into racing? Or?
No, we didn't have any racing. We knew some young kids down the road that we used to go BMXing with, and they were 2 good motocross riders at the time, Nicky and Lee Hopcraft. And bless Nicky. He like you're saying now. You know, we race bikes at the race weekend, and we do near on 200 miles an hour, and we normally injure ourselves on a skateboard or in a skate park doing something completely different. And fortunately for Nicky, he was away and he was on a trampoline and paralysed himself. Really bad in wheelchair for the rest of his life. And we got into racing via them. And it started off as a PW50, as we all do around a field with, I think there was fridge freezers coming out the ground. It was a real sort of, rough and ready little track that we used to go to in a place called Caterham. And it started from there and then just got more and more expensive and more injuries. And that was early days. That was when I was about 7 years old.
And at this point, was it, because I know you've got a little brother, haven't you, that used to race in British Superbike. Did you both, what's the age gap? Did you start riding together?
About 5-6 years between me and Jim.
Right.
Yeah, so Jim was a little baby then, and I've got an older brother, Daniel. So he was the first one to get a bike as well and start. And and then I was hit straight away with a bit of a drama. I had something called Purphy's disease. So I had to have my hip reconstructed at 7 years old. So they took my hip out of the socket. It's something where the blood doesn't reach the socket and the ball joint. So I had to take my hip out, take the top of my hip joint off and bolt it back in place. And
what age was this?
This was at 7 years old.
Hold on, and you started on a motocross at 7?
Started on a motocross and it stopped straight away. Yeah,
So how did you find out? Was it due to a crash? You went to hospital?
I was walking down a hallway and my mum and dad asked me why I was limping, and I didn't know anything that I was doing.
Just how everyone walks.
Just a bit of a strut. I'm a motocross rider, you know.
Sunglasses.
That's it, yeah. And then took me to hospital and done the X-ray, and they could see I had this disease. So they had to, as I say, take it out, re-bolt it, and I was in a plaster. So I was in a makeshift trolley around our house for nearly 3 months in a plaster.
How common is it? I have never ever heard of that.
No, you've never heard of it. So now they tend to not do an operation. They tend to now try to reposition it, or they try to put you in a cast to keep it stable. But yeah, back then they used to operate on it, and it was a real sort of difficult time, really. I think for my mum and dad, because there's pictures of me that we've got at home with. Probably me getting into road racing. To be fair, I was going down a straight with my knee and leg pointing out the side because they had to take it out of the hip joint and turn it sideways, so it was stuck in at a 90 degree angle. And that was at 7 years old. So I had to train my leg to face forwards again from 7 years old.
Now, after that original operation, has it been?
So only this week last week I had an MRI scan. So I was sat in a tunnel for an hour, and just to have an X-ray of my hip. Also my lower back's been playing up, and unfortunately all my old injuries are coming back to haunt me now, so especially that one. So there was a little screw they snapped off and left in there, and I had a cycle crash about 5 weeks ago. I went down on my hip, and it's created a little bit of bleeding around the screw they've left in my hip, and it's sore now. So
where there's a blame.
Yeah, so where's the claim? Yeah, but unfortunately, being a bike racer, it's all come back. I've had a huge list of injuries through my career, and they did say one day you'll be paying for it, and the last 2 weeks I have been. So, but yeah, that was 7 years old, and yeah.
Any regrets, thinking, I wish part of me wishes shouldn't have done
I'd
this.
say more so now. You would sort of go, actually, but at the time you're dedicated to what you're doing, and I didn't let anything affect me. If I had injured myself or broke a bone, you got to put your blinkers on and get on with the job at the end of the day. There's.
Was that a go at me, by the way, you cheeky bugger?
No, come on.
I'll tell you what, though, he must be the only lad in the paddock, right, who has a crash and then walks straight. He goes, he's had a big one. He's had a, look how straight he's walking, catwalk model, you know what I mean?
Yeah, practice walking straight.
So, Jesus.
Do you know, from razzing around on a little Pee-wee 50, did you go motocross racing from there? Or did you
Yeah. So we went from there. We had a Malaguti.
Malaguti Grizzly?
Malaguti, and then we had a Lem. I don't know if you remember a Lem. It was a fluorescent green Lem.
So my Malaguti 50 it just stood still for years and years and years, and I've always had this vision of one day I really want it, like either in my bedroom or on the mantelpiece or something. So I've kept it, all the original parts.
You just forget how crap they look.
And then my dad actually sent it off to get all refurbed a few years ago, and the guy never got round to doing it, so he gives it back in boxes of bits. So I have actually got my first ever bike, but it's all in
1,000 bits.
Either at some point I'll find the time to do it, or I'll pay someone.
Is that
to do
because you don't trust yourself to rebuild it, or
I'm shit with
you can't get the parts?
Wait, well, Mark Hanna did your last bike. You've been listening to this pod now going, he better not call me. He better not call me.
I think I will sell it off, because even though whatever money I spend on it to get it back to reconditioned, it's never gonna be worth that money. But to me, the sentimental value of my first ever bike and those memories are priceless. So I will do it. I will do it definitely at some point. But
I tell you what, before we delve into your past a little bit more, you've been busy with BSAs. No, just funny how you're talking about like rebuilding bikes. I was at the Haves last night, just catching up and seeing what the crack was, and he had an original BSA Gold Star in there, and you think, well, one of them, they're
going for like 20 grand, the originals.
Nah, but you see, that's the thing. The 20 grand ones, if you find the matching frame and engine, because that came out the bike. Now, so it was so common then. Like they were going to car parks and swapping engines for the crack. So you find a lot of differences, and they're worth a little bit less. But the 20 granders are the ones that actually match up. But they are absolutely amazing. Yeah. But the reason I brought it up is because Chrissy's involved with the new ones.
Yeah, so
let's talk about that a bit.
It's like front page of the MCN this week, so it's they're coming in. New bikes coming in end of August, and I'm working for Lucas Distribution, who's like they're basically distributing them. So it's like crazy busy at the moment, and taking lots of like pre-orders and stuff. But it's sort of exciting times. They had the press launch down at Millbrook.
Right, okay.
It was last Tuesday or something like that. Have you ever been there?
No, I've never been there.
Have you ever been?
I'm surprised I got the Brands Hatch, mate.
People recognise it from Top Gear, so they do a lot of. It's like a test track for all kinds of stuff. People do mileage. When you go in, you have to seal all the cameras and phones and everything gets sealed. And then they had that. Do you know the car that was at Goodwood that set the lap record with electric car, but it's got a fan
Yes, I see that.
underneath? It sounds like a superbike. Yeah. That was whizzing around all day, and like it's like a sort of secret test track basically. But yeah, they had the press launch there, and it was really good, and proper excited about it. But
sorry, I'm a nightmare on this show for just jumping in and asking around a question. What's the most exotic bike you've ridden? The reason I'm throwing that out because I'll forget it.
Exotic, you mean
like he's talking about a battery with a fan underneath, sound like a superbike. That's exotic.
A car, by the way.
No, that's what I mean. But I'm thinking throw everything.
I suppose it just depended on where I was in my career, because when the traction control was introduced on a race bike and everything moved forward, but I've never had a bike license. So just to give you a bit of background, so when I stopped racing, I started doing a lot of track days and track day tuition. So I spent a lot of time in Spain. And 90% of the time, the lunchtime chat was, "So, Tommy, what bikes have you got?" And I don't have any bikes. What do you mean? Like, I don't have a bike license. And you could see their faces go white. Thinking,
you were my
Hold
favourite.
on a minute. You were my favourite. And you're teaching me how to ride a bike on the track. And they're more qualified to teach me. So, yeah, it was. It's just something I never got around to. I tried to pass the theory and failed that. So I just gave up. And that was it, yeah. Yeah, no bike license. So
That's what I said. We went through a lovely little phase of making dreams come, not our dreams, but some other people's dreams come true. So if there's anyone out there who would like to get Tommy his full bike license, get it paid for, get in touch, please.
I'll see.
Next time we have you on.
Yeah, like your exotic road bikes. And I've never actually, ventured out. So
because you know how you remember when Brad Ray and Dunlop got to go on the MotoGP bike? Did he ever get close to that with a Yamaha?
For me, So I managed to get a shot on Bautista's bike here at Brands Hatch.
Wow.
Yeah, in 2010. So when I rode for Paul Denning, worked Suzuki, 2010, they gave me a shot. Absolutely amazing. So I left pit lane. By the time I got to Druids, the bike felt mine. The riding position, everything was just amazing. So come off at the back, through Surtees, out over the brow, shifting the gear. I cannot dream to think of what the seamless shifter box will feel like. I mean, this thing was absolutely unreal. When this wasn't seamless, just absolutely amazing. So yeah, that was a dream that day to ride that bike.
But what was it like? What was your orders getting on that bike? If you know what I mean, was it
the biggest thing then was the scary part of it was they had this issue with the Bridgestones. You have to head out and be quick straight away, a bit like the Formula One style of tyre. So you had to leave pit lane and had to push. So they just said, look, be careful of the tyres, and they kept saying this to me. And then you know what it's like as a rider, you leave pit lane, if you've got this in the back of your mind, you think, oh, here we go. So spent a few laps sort of dialing myself in, but I think we only got a 5-6 lap run. But I just absolutely loved it, and I was just thinking to myself, if they give me a test at the end of the year, but never happened.
That's
that is a dream.
That is cool.
A dream.
Not many people get that sort of opportunity in their life, so yeah, pretty good. But sorry, going back to after the Malaguti, the Lem, did you say?
Yeah, we had a Lem, and my dad
never heard of one.
My dad was going to commit suicide. Like, this thing drove us around the bend, and
have you heard of a Lem?
Yeah, we. You
sounds like a dodgy night drug. Do you know what I mean? Like, you got any
Have you
Lems?
had a Lem? Yeah, it was like that. It was an absolute nightmare. 1 minute we'll go out and it'll be perfect. I remember Dad throwing it across the awning, not at me. He threw a few bikes on me when we had
that domestic childhood you had.
But it was just a nightmare. So we spent a following year on the Lem, and then stepped up to the big 60s. Power band, gears.
And this is racing as well.
This is full on even racing in the East Kent Schoolboy Championship on the Lem.
So this what you stuck it like club level motocross, or did you have a dabble in?
I did do. We used to do Schoolboy British Championships, but we used to travel the country everywhere we could go and race. Everywhere there was competition, we used to go to. So you'll see results is Johnny Ryan there, Christian Idden in our results as well. So we knew each other from way back. So it was a real good fun time motocross. It's a real sort of family orientated atmosphere. Everyone's having a barbecue, everyone gets on. There was no real politics involved. You turned up there, and I think now you just forget how hard your mum and dad work for it. Every weekend, week in, week out, we live for it. We finish work, my dad would get in the van, we'll drive through the night to the event, and even sometimes we would pack up and go through the night to the next event. There was one time we were racing in Ireland, and we drove all through the night to come back to do another race the following day. It was unbelievable. So I spent another 2 years on a 60, and then jumped up on a Yamaha to a YZ80. Spent 3 years on that, and there were some good times. So we raced.
Were you competitive motocross?
Yeah. We were at the sharp end of the Schoolboy British Championship. Everything was going really, really well in the 80s, and then I started to get a bit too big. So we stepped from the 80s to 125s. So we used to ride for a team called Emberson Yamaha. He run a motocross team for years.
So it wasn't just your mum and dad at this point. Now you stepped up to riding for teams in motocross.
Yeah. So we ran for teams, and things were going really well. And spent 3 years on an 80, and then started to get too big. So we stepped right up to the 125. So the natural progression was to go 80s to 100s, but we stepped straight up to 125s, and I had my ass handed to me on a plate. So we rocked up at a track called Hawkstone Park, which you probably know. Schoolboy British Championship, and hadn't trained. We only just got the bikes. My dad was working his nuts off for a long time just to try and get everything ready. And turned up there and went out and got absolutely smashed and annihilated. So I think I broke my nose, broke my thumb. This was in the race. Remember coming in, my dad throwing the bike on me in the back of the van. The pressure at the time, with your dad working so many late nights, trying to get these bikes prepared and ready for you, and then the pressure added to the family going racing, and it was a wake-up call. So I got back, and then I went boxing, and it sort of changed my life really. Just a realization being absolutely smashed.
What
And with a bike as well.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. One of our favourite questions on here is the motocross dad question. Was your dad a motocross?
He was at times, yeah. And
chucking bikes across the order. That's pretty up there.
Yeah. We used to be in the paddock, and we used to go down to the starting grid and just look at a truck, and they were rocking. As in,
Class.
Kids getting bashed up by their dads. So it's a pretty.
Is that why you went to boxing, so you could defend yourself?
Yeah, protect myself from my dad. But no, like looking back at it now,
There've been loads of young listeners going, I want to get in the boxing, lad.
It's funny because we're good mates with our little with a little lad called Haid, who's running right at the front of British Motocross. He's just started boxing as well.
He just won his first national, not national, British. On the 85, the small 85s, and
he's absolutely smashing it. He's doing great.
Just mental. And Sugar Tits, his dad, he is a motocross dad.
Right, okay.
So I'm only saying that because that'll be pissing him off. He'll be in the van like I got it. So anyway, so boxing. So why? What point?
I was unfit. I was 14 years old, and I think as a 14-year-old, I thought I'd just get on the bike and, we'll try and do the business. But it was a true hit of reality to me, really. So we didn't turn up to a few rounds, and started boxing, got myself fit, and come back, and things were going really well. Like I led the race. Load of guys there that are racing now, but also like there was Billy McKenzie, Brian McKenzie. There's a lot of guys that were top doers in motocross, and things were going well. And unfortunately, I dropped back a little bit, but I got cross-rutted and I went down, and another rider landed on top of me, and I punctured my lung, lost my spleen, and lost my kidney at 14.
Wow.
So another huge baptism of fire, and I was in intensive care and I had 15 minutes to live. So we stopped that and we come road racing.
Was that what was the turning point?
It was really, really bad. At the time, we were building motorhomes. We used to build a lot of the race transporters for a lot of motocross teams, road racing teams, we as I say, we pretty much parked everything. We had a bit of a dabble at go-karting, which was fun. But my heart was in two wheels.
Yes,
and a guy called Ian Newton turned up and said, "Hey, we want a truck build," and we were asking questions. What he does? What does he do? He runs this championship one make series of Aprilia Super Teens. God, that sounds pretty cool. But you just like rock up with your bike, and you just rock up and you go and whiz around Brands Hatch. So that's exactly what we done. And this isn't me cutting corners. We turned up here, 1999. Never ever started a road bike up. My dad and mum and dad turned up here with an Aprilia 125 they just bought from a little shop called Inter Motorcycles in Maidstone. Turned up with the number plate on, everything with lights, the full shebang. While I was out as a 15-year-old kid partying with my mates, and for us it was nice because Leon Camia's dad helped us out, helped my dad out actually, prepare the whole bike through the night, get this bike ready in race trim, ready to go to the race fairings, the correct tyres, taking the indicators off, the number plate, and I put my leg over it and went out in free practice one in the British Super Teens at Brands Hatch British Superbikes. Never even rode a bike. Wow. Lasted about 5 corners because I was in the gravel clearways. I didn't know how to turn. I just jumped on this thing. Hadn't got a clue what was going on or how to ride it. So I went into clearways with my leg down, motocross style, end over end, smashed the bike up, and that was, I think, the day my dad realised this is more expensive than motocross.
Mm.
And that's it. Yeah, that was at 15.
Wow.
It was in the deep end,
the deep end.
Yeah. So I didn't qualify.
It's funny you've mentioned that because when I was doing Super Teens, Jake Dixon turned up, but he came from Supermoto,
right? Okay.
And he turned up here first time, and because he was used to Supermoto, he was riding he was like sat right on top of the bike and pushing it down, and he had the biggest high side coming out of clearways, and the race got red flagged, and it's on YouTube, so I'll get my sister to put it in so people will be able to watch it, but it like snaps, and it could have easily...
Welcome to road racing.
Yeah, exactly.
That was like me, but lucky enough I sort of lost the front into there. Nice. But yeah, the eye opener for me was realising that how big this sport was. In motocross, we were in our own little world, we loved it week in, week out, the family, the friends, the barbecues, the racing. We turned up at Brands and they put me on the back of the grid because I didn't actually qualify because I don't think we could get the bike ready, and there was me sitting on the back of the grid looking at all these fans on the start finish trail. I was like, wow, this is amazing, this is unreal.
I was wondering what kept you in it, because let's face it, you've just stepped up, you've trashed the bike, you couldn't do this, and you're thinking, let's go back to motocross, but that's the reason why, you've got
the
the
amazing, absolutely amazing. Aaron Zanotti, he was the man at the time. There was Chaz Davis, Leon Camia, and then the following year there was some guy called Casey Stoner. So
who's she?
Some ex-MotoGP rider, but it was it was amazing. It was just amazing feeling to come from the motocross background, real gritty, hardcore racing, and then turn up at Brands Hatch for the first time, never even put a leg over a bike, and just see the crowd. It was an amazing day, and we stuck to it. My first full season was the year after, in 2000.
It's obviously incredible what you went on to then achieve from, say, the Super Teens in 99 to, say, winning the Superbikes in 2011, so in that 12-year period. But I've mentioned this before, but it is insane when you think Casey Stoner, 7 years after doing Aprilia Super Teens, won the MotoGP. 7 years.
Yeah.
Like, it's just, like, ridiculous, isn't it? Like,
it's
so
amazing.
Mad.
Yeah, I mean, I think the sort of, he turned up and he was on fire. He's a top rider, and it was just a nice championship at the time. There was a bit of there was questions being asked about certain things that were done, and there was some bikes that may be a little bit quicker than others, but you're always going to get that and one make series. You get to a point where people are trying to pick holes in everyone with 5.2 chrome. It's just
the politics of it.
The politics, and his bikes. Well, how can it be? It's the same engine, same bike, and always open up a can of worms.
And did you stay in the championship for 2000 as well?
Yeah, so 2000, my first season. My first race was 99. We just, as I said, just turned up and had a go, and then our first full season was in 2000.
And what was your best results that year?
I think I had a few top 10 by the end of the season, and then the new series started, British Junior Suicide, they used to call it. Junior Superstock.
Was that started in 2011?
Junior Suicide.
2001. 2001. It was. Wow. It was like, well, let's have a go on this. Let's get on a 600. We've. But at the end of that year, we actually had a few goes at MRO 125s, and I couldn't believe the power of the two-stroke 125s. So we went from a Aprilia Super Team to the GP 125s at MRO. Absolutely amazing. I remember to the day coming down the start-finish straight, the power on this thing. And I was quite a big lad at the time, and. Yeah, it was amazing feeling. But as I say, when they announced the Junior Suicide, it was let's have a go. Let's get on a 600cc machine.
It's quite a big jump, isn't it? Usually people step up to a GP bike for like a year or 2 years, and it's a good in between. But to go from like a 30 horsepower Aprilia bike to back then, it would have been about 115 brakes.
That's it. Yeah. I think we had 120, 124, something like that.
Yes, that's good.
So it was, but it was a exciting time for everyone, because everyone's, what's this championship? What's it going to be like? Is it going to be the new breeding ground for young British talent? Is it going to be an absolute chaos racing with bike crashes? It was everything. We had new guys coming in. We had guys that had never rode before. We had guys coming from motocross that jumped on a 600. And it was just a big mixture of riders, different talents, different calibers, but also different personalities. And it was fun. It was good racing. Craig Jones as well. So there was loads of us stepped up, and first few rounds I struggled, and then started to find my feet. And one of the for me was one of my best races, actually, best and worst, was I was leading here. It was the first time I experienced when people talk about an out of body experience. When people talk about that with the racing, and I felt like I was on top of the bike. It was really, really weird, and that was for me like an adrenaline rush. I felt it was, because I didn't feel like I was with the bike. And I was leading the race that year at Brands Indy, and there was Declan Swanton. You might not have remembered him. Declan Swanton and Matt Late.
Yeah, I know Matt.
Paul Sheehan. I don't know. So these
we've had Matt Late on the
podcast. Matt listens to every single one. He'll be loving that.
There's Craig Jones, and then Tom Sykes was doing it as well. So led the race and come into clearways, and lost the front. Looked back, and we got the bike back in the awning, and the tilt switch cut the bike out through the last turn. So it'd have been my first race win probably. But it was. They were good times, real good times. 2001, all them years ago.
Yeah, that's great.
It's not long ago.
No.
When you think about it, it's not actually that long ago.
No, I know you say again, it seemed quite early.
Yeah.
We stepped up to Superstock Thousands the year after.
Wow.
Yeah.
Was this your thought process?
Super Teens, Stock 600, Stock 1000.
Yeah, straight away. And there was quite a few factors involved. At the time, we rode for a team called Roundstone Suzuki, but the team was Roundstone Racetrack Suzuki. So Dave Trigg, you might listen in to this. So the following year, Craig Jones raced for him, John Crockford and Chris Burns the following year. So for us, it was about, right, okay, moving forward, stepping up. Let's go back on a Yamaha, back to the brand that I've been associated with years. And it was a big shock, because our bike was about 25 horsepower down the R1 then, compared to like David Jeffries, for instance, or John Crockford Suzuki. It was a big difference. But yeah, we always just wanted to, I suppose, progress and move forward. Whether it was the right thing or wrong thing at the time, it was something that we chose to do. And 2002 was just a bit of a shock, really. Halfway through the season, I got salmonella poisoning. I was in hospital for a week and a half. I lost 1.5 stone in weight, and
yes,
it's a good diet. I was faster down the straights, but yeah, that was a real shock. And then we started to run out of money. So
up to this point, was it you doing it with your dad, sort of thing?
Yeah, mum, dad. The time off of work and the pressure that creates for you as a rider. And the family.
You weren't really doing it within a team.
No, we had our own team. Yeah, we turned up with our truck, and we settled the flooring out, the awning, and tried to look as professional as we could.
Yeah.
Did you have excuse me? Did you have many sponsors in the motocross? You're going through that at that age.
More so through the team. So we might get a bit of a deal through CI Sport for boots, helmets, gloves, kit. But yeah, what you're going on to the transition.
Personal, it's a bit like imagine if you, for example, Chris, or me, turn around going, let's go car racing.
Yeah.
Let's face it, people who sponsor bike racing want to be in bike racing, don't they? I'm just wondering what the transition...
No, there was no real sponsors. I mean, like Roy Emberson, so the team that I rode for in the motocross, he helped us out a bit. He was wanting to be involved, because it was a bit of an eye-opener for him. It was for us. I never even really knew about road racing. I didn't know people were even doing it. I was so engrossed into my motocross, week in, week out. We lived it, it was in our blood. Every weekend we were away racing from Friday to Sunday. And he was interested in coming over, so he'd done a bit of sponsorship for us, but the rest of it was, maybe a discount on chains. We went into motorcycles and we bought the best kit. So Dainese suits at the time. We bought, the right helmets, because of my injury that I've come from motocross. I think the idea was to try and protect me, but also put me on a road racing bike, which is probably not the best idea.
It's interesting though, because you see the crashes in motocross and the lack of armour and stuff. The first time you must put a set of levers on, a helmet, you must have thought, the ton weight of this, I can't get hurt.
I was invincible.
You know what I mean?
I was invincible. So it was just a big shock, really. But it's always difficult, to try and get the sponsors. And I think at the time we just appreciated anything. At 17-year-old, I bought my own sticker machine. So that's where my design background comes from. So at 17, I started producing graphics and stickers for a bike. So, we'll do our own graphics. We painted our own fairings in the garage. We made our own fairings because, going back at the time, we also produced the R6 Cup fairings for the championship.
Your family did?
2003, yeah. So
fair play.
Yeah, so we used to be in there making fairings. And we did find, at the time, we felt sponsorship was possibly easier in the road racing. We were like, wow, actually, we went into a bike shop and they were going to give us a discount on a set of levers, a discount on and we appreciated it so much. Back then you just a bit of a deal on some oils, a few tins of brake cleaner. Wow, what amazing support we got from a bike shop. And then, things just move forward from there.
So the first time I actually remember you racing myself, like from watching, was the R6 Cup.
Yeah.
What sort of year was that?
That was 2003.
Right, okay, so you went up to 1,000 then?
Up to the 1,000, and we stopped racing. So I had a salmonella poisoning. We decided to stop. We run out of money as a family. The business that we were running at the time was the race transporter company. It was struggling. It was just getting too much. The cost of the running of the bike, the tyres, the crash damage, and we drew a line and we stopped.
And put a timeline on at what age were you at that point then of quitting?
At that point then, I'd have been 17 years old.
17 and you're having the pack in. That would be upsetting.
Yeah, because it was a realisation of this costs too much money.
Yeah. And
also, the business and our family come first, so that was it. We had to stop, and all of a sudden R6 Cup appeared. What's this? At the time, we didn't commit to it. There was probably 5 or 6 other guys, just to name a few. Cal Crutchlow didn't commit to it. I think he was planned for a super sport ride at the time, and everything fell on its feet. And I think 5-6 days before Donington preview day, we decided to go for the R6 Cup, £15,000 all in. Winner gets a full-blown superbike ride with Virgin Yamaha and £15,000 back in your pocket. Let's give it a go. So we rocked up at Donington, and there was about another 25 kids all felt like they could win this championship because we were on the same bike.
Were you feeling like, I'm going to do this? What was your mind like that point? Or were you just happy to be on a bike or thought, I'm going to win this?
As I say, 25 kids, lads turn up at Donington Park thinking, we're all on the same bike. There can't be any cheating, same engine, same brakes, same tyres. We can all win. We've all got a chance.
Lunatic class.
And that feeling was nice, knowing that Joe Bloggs hasn't got a special bike, he hasn't got better tyres, he's not got race fuel, it's the same. So it's a nice level playing field. And I think the problem was you had every other person that thought the same. So it produced some good racing, but that was a turning point for me.
Who was in it that year?
So Cal Crutchlow, Peter Ward, Benji Cockrell, Kieran Clark. There was quite a few other guys that were, coming up through the ranks as well. That was stepping into the class. But it was an amazing year for me.
Have you got your jacket still? The R6 Cup jacket. Was there a jacket?
Yes, there was a jacket.
The only reason I know
used to get a box of Yamaha kit.
The only reason I know that is Ollie Linsdale, who's Ollie Linsdale, who did that. He doesn't race anymore. He does a bit of classic stuff, but he always wears that jacket, and I thought that's classy. It's fun. You don't see the tri-option lads going round, or you Triumph lads, because BMW did it. You could get a jacket, but you want to get on the phone now. I
remember you used to get a little Yamaha kit bag with your bits and pieces on it, and Ollie Bridewell as well. So so it was a real good series, but it definitely threw up a few issues along the way.
Back then, did they take the bikes away from the
took the bikes away, so you just rock up, the bikes are all in the awning.
Wow.
But it got to the point there was a lot of mind games,
Did you know which bike you were getting each weekend, or was it
in actual fact, one time we got, I think, halfway through the season and people were saying his bike's quicker than there used to be quite a lot of issues in the awning. There was quite a few fights, to-dos. So I think there was a few times where I handed my key back and got the spare bike. Yeah, and likewise with Cal and a few others, because there was, as I said a minute ago, for one make series, your mums and dads have the reality of maybe their kids not as good as they thought they were. And you can imagine the animosity that builds and the aggressiveness between the parents. So,
do you know what would be absolutely amazing, right? Is to redo that show and get David Attenborough to voice it over. Like, here we are.
Well, there was, I don't feel, you won't remember, there was a show. The show was called Natural Born Racers.
Right.
So there was a TV documentary series that followed the racers all through the week, what they done in the week, what they done over a race weekend. Yeah, Natural Born Racers, it was Bravo TV. Do you remember Bravo?
This
I'm
must
really
be
showing my age
accessible.
now.
No, this must be accessible.
Yeah. Spoke to Stuart Higgs, who would dig out the old files. But he used to film all through the week. All the riders behind the scenes, but I never really got involved, so I was just working with my dad, non-stop to pay for this. It was a real fun time of racing. But the biggest thing for me was winning. That championship in 2003. So there was a lot of politics involved. There was a lot of argy-bargy. I think I knocked two riders off the track at one point because we all wanted it. It was getting to the point where this prize up for grab to win yourself a full-blown Yamaha British Superbike ride with one of the top teams in the championship.
And 15 grand worth of cheddar. Yeah.
And 15 grand back in your pocket. So happy mum and dad. And believe it or not, the night of the second to last round, Fred Clark phoned us at 12 o'clock at night. We had the missed calls. And I remember my dad sitting in the kitchen, coming in a few times. He had a few beers. He come in and he was like, no one can beat you. Because back then you had to drop two of your worst scores. So you had to try and plan the scores as if you were coming to the last event. What would happen if you drop your two worst scores? I managed to finish every race, but Cal Crutchlow was dropping 2 0 scores. He wasn't dropping any scores, where I had to drop some of my scores.
So you could drop your worst
scores. So we had to work out every eventuality and every position, and we worked out that I've won the championship. I can't be beaten. The phone rings at 12 o'clock. It's Fred Clark to say, Tommy, you've won the championship. So it was actually Fred Clark and us that found out that I won the championship.
So you didn't actually cross the line and have
Didn't
that
cross
moment of being like,
No, this was the final penultimate round. So yeah, we won the championship penultimate round. The championship didn't know. No one knew. No one knew. Yeah, no one knew, just because of the way the point structure
So did you
worked.
put a big one on the bike for the last round?
No, they didn't let me.
Got
do
a
that.
cane.
That's it. Yeah,
Got the shirts.
Got a cream it. No, but what a dream. 18 years old.
Was it mainly you and Cal for the?
Yeah, there was me, Cal, and Kieran.
Right.
Kieran Clark, I think, at the time.
Did Kieran go into stunt riding? Is that different?
Yeah, he did quite recently, over the last sort of, I think, 10 years. But Kieran actually got a step up and rode for Appleyard. So Colin Appleyard.
Jesus.
Colin Appleyard rode to TV.
yeah.
I think it was TBD at the time. And that was a satellite team to the Virgin Yamaha team. But yeah, that was... so I managed to, actually previously to that, the year before, we managed to get a shot, because I was a Yamaha rider on the R1 in the Superstock Championship. We managed to get a little ride out on Steve Hislop's bike at Donington Park. And that I remember today, a lot of the guys that were working in the garage were actually crew chiefs for me later on in my career. And they asked me if I knew do I want to run a quick shifter? And I looked at my dad and looked at them and just said, yeah. I didn't even know what a quick shifter was. So I just jumped on this bike and I've gone down the straight, and I used to have this technique on the R6 Cup bike and the Superstock. I used to hold it pinned and just flick the clutch when I used to change gear, motocross style, which isn't good for the gearbox, especially on a Virgin Yamaha Superbike with the quick shifter. So the quick shifter's trying to blip while I'm slipping the clutch. Oh, it's like gearbox hanging out on the start-finish straight.
Did you ever do the kill switch?
No, so on motocross, it used to be someone used to call it on the button. So with the motocross, you could rail the berms through the sandy tracks and just hit the kill switch. Yeah. But just keep it pinned.
Yeah, the kill switch, like do it on the classic bikes.
Yeah, the Yanks, the Americans, you say on the button. So that was where the expression come from. Yeah, just rail through the berm, just hit the kill switch and rail it through. But with the shifting, I'm not sure if people done that or not, but I just used to slip the clutch. But yeah, it wasn't good for the gearboxes. But yeah.
And did you, when you mentioned there was like fights and stuff in the things, have you got any sort of juicy stories? Or
who was the best person you've punched?
It just got real aggressive. Yeah, because like I said a minute ago, there was a lot of, even my mum and dad, I think all the mum and dads thought their kid was going to be the next. The next one,
They're your kid, aren't they?
And it was the realization of actually that maybe they're not. So there was quite a tense atmosphere in there all the time. And then there was a few people starting to play head games. I remember Cal and Kieran had this trainer, Kirk. He'll remember this if he's listening. He used to come over to me and try and intimidate me, staring me out and yawning. Haslam's. And I reminded him a few years ago actually. Yeah, so he used to come because you got to a point you like. How can we defeat?
You're looking for every
angle that you can do to try and beat the opposition.
Did you used to, at the time, did you know that was going on, and did it used to intimidate you?
No, I was a cocky 17, 18-year-old that thought
unstoppable.
Not going to let anything affect me. I used to just laugh at him, but you would try anything you could do to try and beat the opposition. But this is the thing with the One Make series. You try and look at everything you could, but there's something that did crop up halfway through the season was riders testing. So the only time I ever rode that bike was on a race weekend. But other riders were getting a spare bike from a sponsor or a dealership that sponsored them and gave them a bike. So they were doing track days. I think Cal and Kieran also part of the ACU Academy at the time. We were just mum, dad rocking up and doing our best. And to get the win at the end of the season was a dream come true. And right for big Rob Mack.
And then going into that Superbike, riding for Rob Mack on the Virgin Yamaha, was that like just a dream come true sort of thing?
What was your mindset going in that? Because bear in mind, when you won the stock 1000, did a bit of crashing, unfortunately ran out of money kind of thing. Was that playing a bit? You thought, oh, hold on, we've got the big chance now. Ooh.
Yeah, and we're only talking of 3 years of riding, and now I'm in British Superbikes. So it's a big step. And there was a lot of negative publicity around the whole thing as well, because how can this young 17, 18-year-old kid that has not got a lot of experience step up from riding a road bike to a full-blown superbike? And I remember to the day we went out to Spain, I walked in the garage and I felt a little bit sectioned, to be fair, because there was the new R1 out with the twin exhaust through the back.
Oh, beautiful, favourite bike.
And it was 2004 this was, and I remember walking in and then I only saw two bikes, Steve Plater and Gary Mason's. So where's my... I looked over and I was in another garage next door on the old bike.
Oh.
But that put a bit in my bonnet, and I was like, right, okay, well, So I just got my head down and rode a bike. I didn't know anything different. And that year was a struggle, I think, for the whole team. It wasn't the results. There was a big hype about the new R1 coming out, you know, new technology. It was going to be...
Back then, were you not on Pirellis as well? And there weren't.
No, it was all Dunlops.
Was it?
Yeah, mainly Dunlops. I think there was 1 or 2 teams on Pirellis, but at the time it was all Dunlops.
Yeah.
And
I just remember having Rob Mack on the podcast, and he was in one of the years of when he had a Superbike team. He was saying they were on Pirellis and like the rest, and they weren't competitive back then.
Yeah, so that was when I rode for Rob as well. So that was the start of 2004. Was 4 years with Rob Mack and Virgin Yamaha. So yeah, a lot went on through the time then, through them years. But as I say, we went testing, and I just got my head down on the old R1 and got used to it. And yeah, it clicked, and I felt comfortable in it, and it was going really well. Whereas Gary and Steve had to get used to this new R1, and they knew what they wanted. I didn't know what I wanted. I was just riding that bike and got my head down and didn't know anything different.
So you, like, you know, as far as feedback, all leading up to this, did you no feedback? You just
No, and also
that's what
I remember coming into the pit lane first of all. What do I say? So I felt like I just had to give him feedback, you know. And I was making stuff up, and yeah, because at the end of the day, I was this superbike rider now. I didn't want them to think that I don't know what I'm doing or I can't give it. So I had to just make feedback. But I was so green to it that I just was racing the bike. But that worked out for me really well because I had a lot better results than Gary and Steve the first year on a superbike. Halfway through the season, they switched me over to the new R1. I qualified on the front row that year, first time. I was leading a British Superbike race first time in Superbikes. I remember
which track was
this
that?
was Mallory Park. I remember going past John Reynolds into the chicane, and yeah, I took the lead. And yeah, leading a British Superbike race as a rookie rider coming from R6 Cup was
with no feedback.
with no feedback, but just so green, you know. Just and this is the thing, you know. Some riders you feel that they can get so involved that you start to create problems that maybe they're not even there. Where I was just racing my bike, you know, and just felt this is a dream come true. I'm in British Superbikes.
That's incredible.
I've got a million questions. I'm just trying to form them in my mind now. It's a bit like
in terms of like raw talent. That's like a hell of an like a hell of a thing when you compare who you're riding against, which teams you. Because to be fair, I know Rob Mack ran like a really good team, but it wasn't the best bike on the grid. Wasn't the best team on the grid. And as a rookie to do that, like in today's,
that's what I mean.
Yeah.
Like, can there be another Tommy Hill now? It, like, you know,
I feel the sport. Everything changes.
Of course it does. Yeah, of course it does.
I feel like the championship now is tighter. You know, I feel that the gaps between the bikes are far less. I feel a lot of machinery out there is good. You might disagree. You're a current rider, Chrissy. You know, in the British Superbikes.
Yeah,
but I feel there's just such a different margin. Whereas back then, you would get a bike that can find half a second on a straight, but lose half a second in the tighter turns.
Yeah.
But you've got a bike that can punch off the turns or handles quicker, more nimble, can make time up through the chicanes. I feel like now every bike is fast. Every bike's got the horsepower. Teams are trying to dial out the horsepower. Everyone's on the same bike, you know, same tyres, same electronics. Whereas back then there was a lot more scope for changes or things not being quite right or even being like better. For instance, you had Michelins. So I was up against Chianari and Rutter that would get Michelin tyres flying in through night. So, you know, but for me, I just got my head down and rode with it, and then started to voice my opinion in 2005 a bit more.
Mm-hmm. To sort of put it in today's world, it would be like someone winning the Ducati Cup and then stepping up into a superbike team as a rookie and leading a race. It's like, it is very special.
That's what I mean. But he broke that mold, though, if you know what I mean. Because John Reynolds and all them lads would have stand there and gone,
and I mean, I think I re-signed for Rob in round 5 for 2004.
So you're clearly doing a good job. And then in that sort of 4-year gap when you were, so like your first stint in British Superbikes, what were your sort of best results, your sort of best moments?
Had a real, 2005 was a real tough year. Started off really, really positive. So my teammate was Sean Emmett, and the Virgin guys, Rob Matt's guys in Scunthorpe produced the Pig, so the Big Bang R1. So they changed the firing order of the R1 because the biggest issue that Gary and Steve had, because they knew what they needed and they knew what they needed from a superbike, whereas again I didn't because I was so green to it. They knew how the bike should handle, how it should punch off the turn, what grip it should have. They changed the firing order to produce the Big Bang R1 to allow the rear tyre to gain traction, fire it off the turn, be better on tyre life as well. And we lost a little bit of top end, but that year, went really well. I mean, Sean was my teammate, which is a big shock. We were two different characters, and I respected him so much. And I think he got a little bit pissed off of me because I was new, one of the new young kids coming up through. I was training every day in, day out. I had a personal trainer. I trained twice a day, every day. I was 100% committed to this, and it sort of put a bit of a bee in Sean's bonnet. And but he was quick, from the off. We went out to Spain. Sean jumped on the R1, the big bang R1 that they've built, and it was going really quick. We turned up at round 1. He was flying around the Indy track, and things looked really, really good. And I won a race at Cadwell Park, and it was a dream come true because that year there was pretty much the main fighters or title fighters was HM Plant, Airwaves, Ducati. They were the only guys winning the race, and I was the youngest rider to win a British Superbike race then as well. I just turned 18 years old, so it was.
Is that still standing?
19 I was. I don't know.
I wouldn't actually know who's the youngest.
Yeah, I'm not sure, but it was like a dream. So at Cadwell Park, and there was Levere and Haslam, and then I was with them for the whole race, and come to the end of Park Straight, and I can't remember if it was Haslam or Levere went under each other and run each other wide. I come through on the last lap. You should have heard the crowd. It was amazing because it got a bit stagnant really. It was just between, as I say, like the Ducatis and the Hondas, and then this young kid on this big bang R1 with second-rate Dunlop tyres come through because there was a pecking order of the tyres that year as well. So, we never really got the opportunity to ride on the good Dunlops. So I won a race on the old Dunlops and on a Yamaha. So, yeah, it was a real good day.
Amazing.
That was 2005.
Are you an angry rider? Now, I'm trying to think, when you get on the grid, are you like... I'm going to use Pete Hitman as an example. They always say it on ITV and stuff like that. Dead relaxed. He's unfazed.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
yeah.
Like, you can chat to anyone. What were you like? Were you put the gum shield in? Or?
I was at the start. Remember I said to you before earlier on the podcast that the adrenaline. I had a bit of an issue when I was younger. Adrenaline. I was always fighting a lot. I had an issue with my adrenaline controlling that, and I noticed it here at Brands when I felt like I had that out of body experience where I wasn't really riding the bike, and I feel that it was adrenaline. But as time went on, I managed to control that, and I managed to control myself. So I used to get nervous for qualifying because I knew I wanted a good qualifying every weekend, even to the day that I stopped. But come the race, I don't know how, I just said it will be what it will be. And, I tried to keep myself relaxed. And I think, don't get me wrong, every time everyone puts a visor down, you go out there to win. Yeah. And I think you've got to have a bit of anger in your belly to try and win races.
Yeah, because a lot of people approach it totally different. It's just to do what you did. It's just interesting to see what.
Yeah.
Also, at this point, were your family still involved? And did your dad play a major role behind the scenes with you, or when did that sort of break?
Again, it's difficult, and to this day, I feel it's difficult for parents, and I always look at every situation in two different ways. And a lot of riders would say their mum and dads are a big part of their career. They've brought you up, they've put the money into you, they've invested their time, and it was quite tough for mum and dad as well because I had to realise they're taking a bit of a back step now, and they come racing less, but they were still heavily involved. They were still living at home with my mum and dad and parents, and it was it's just that transition. We go through so many transitions as we're racing and times, and it was time for them to take a bit of a back step. You're in a top team, they know what they're doing. You've got a good bunch of guys around, you've got a good crew chief, you've got a good technical support, and it was time for them to sit back and enjoy the racing. So, don't get me wrong, we would talk about stuff or I'll have a bit of a moan about something. So, and I was generally always on my own, apart from, a good guy around me, Billy McConnell. So Billy was my teammate as well. I think in 2006 was the first time he was my teammate. And
but he had some wild nights out.
Yeah, no, Billy was a good guy. He enjoys himself off the track, but he's, he was a real good guy. And we had a real good team environment for 4 years with Rob. So also 2006, but 2006 was the time I think I put myself on the map, and that year we switched to Pirelli. So I think every year Virgin Yamaha, we're trying everything we could, and this is hand on my heart. I don't take away anything from the team. I feel like the team are always trying to move forward with the bike and development of the bike, but we were just trying to do what we could do with the Dunlop tyres that we were on. So we sat back and we had a meeting with the director of Pirelli, and we switched to Pirelli tyres. So it's a massive thing for our team to switch, but we just felt there was no other option really,
Were you fussed? Like, did you want to stick with what you knew?
No,
or?
because I knew we weren't going to get anything better than we were on. But if we went Pirelli, we could take the risk, take the gamble, and possibly being on some tyres that could be better than Dunlop in a few cases. But the biggest thing for us was allowing us to do a wild card at World Superbikes. So, Tommy Hill and the Virgin Yamaha crew rocked up at Silverstone, and I put it on pole position at World Superbikes. And I don't think to this day the guys knew who I was. So there was Troy Bayliss, Toseland, Hager, Barros, Arbe, thinking, who's this power-faced kid from...
We're about 19, 20 at this point.
Yeah, I think I was 19. 19, 20 years old, yeah.
Again, to put it in, imagine if that happened now.
Yeah.
Well, no, but you put that, let's put that in actually comparison, with everything that's totally different now, but it's like, Donington Park, that happened on the weekend.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You've got front runners of the BSB,
And
Taron McKenzie.
Yeah.
It would
essentially be like a 19-year-old British lad going out and putting it in
it's mental,
ahead of Top Rack and Jonathan. And
it was the story behind it all. So it rained just before. So and the track was drying, but you were only allowed to do 10 laps in Superpole. So the Superpole wet session wasn't a 1 lap. It was 10 laps. But if you went over 10 laps and done 11th lap, your best lap gets cancelled. So I was
eligible now, or was that just blown out the water now?
I think it's different now.
Yeah.
So I remember coming past the pits, seeing P1, and my head just fell off. I carried on going. So I'd done the 11th lap, but luckily enough for me, I'd done 2 matching lap times.
You lucky son of a...
I remember the crew hanging over the pit wall going, get him in. So, I carried on, and luckily enough, I was going for another lap, and I crashed coming into the infield. And the crowd were going berserk. I'm like, what? And then walked back because a British rider was on pole position, because I managed to, as I say, done 2 of my quickest laps, and there was me in a heap in the gravel, but I got pole position at World Superbikes.
Are you the first ever rider to crash and get like a bonus from it? You know what I mean? Like,
I don't think there was a bonus. The bonus was...
Well done for binning it, son. Well done.
How did the race go?
So I think I finished 9th and 10th at Silverstone. But the biggest shock for me was how hard the boys go at the start.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I had it handed to me on the plate, really, to be fair. But you forget the guys around you, and like Rob and the guys know our bike was nowhere near the spec of what Andrew Pitt and Hager's bike was at the time.
Yeah,
their bike was a full factory Yamaha Belgarda, we done pretty good. If you look at results over the last few years, so wildcard riders, to finish top 10 World Superbikes, then you've got guys at Arbe, there was Barros, Toseland, Walker, Bayliss.
You must have saw a different path unfolding in front of you after that pole top 10. You must have gone.
I showed them too much respect, if I'm honest, because they were big names. And I remember I'm at Corsa, I remember him barging me out, and I was like, it sort of took me a few laps to get my bearings, and I think within 2 laps I was back to 10th anyway. And then I found my feet, and then we had 2 good results there. And then later on that year, we also done a wild card at Brands Hatch. I think I had 2 good results there, and I was battling with who was the French guy, the French rider, World Superbikes going? Laconi. So it was Laconi and Fonzie Nieto. So yeah, me and Fonzie Nieto aren't
You forget
friends.
now, do you? It's nice.
Did you say you're not friends?
Yeah, no, we're not friends. No. I barged him out of the way going through the back. So yeah, when we come to the World Superbikes next time around, I suppose I had a little bit less respect for him, because I wanted to put myself on a world stage, and it was and I did really, because it opened up quite a few doors for me into 2007. But 2007 I also rode for Rob again. So but Rob also managed me in 2006 and 7 as well.
So in hindsight, having a team boss that was also a personal manager, do you feel like that was a
it's a wrong decision? Rob knows that as
just
well.
Just because of a conflict of interest?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, Rob knows that as well. So I remember talking to a few team managers, and they said, we thought you had signed. I think they just put 2 and 2 together. But yeah, Rob knows, I'd say deep down, and the team probably do, that it was... I should have moved on. I feel like 2006, but stayed with Rob again in 2007. A few more upgrades on the bike, a new sponsor, which was Virgin Media at the time, so it was a big push. It was the best part of that season was getting a wild card with the factory Yamaha World Supersport team. So with Kev Curtin, So taking Kev Curtin's ride, it was me and Brock Parks, and
So between all this, you were doing this is thousand racing, and then you got a wild card on the 6.
Yeah, never rode a 600 Super Sport.
Yeah.
Jumped on it here, and I remember to this day Billy McConnell almost catching the bike because I went out on the bike and felt so slow. But I remember coming past 1.5. I was faster than there was Charpentier, Sofoglu. I was 1.5 seconds faster than within a few laps, but I felt so slow. And then come in, and I couldn't believe it. I was sitting there seeing myself P1, and first time on a Super Sport bike in World Super Sport. But I just was so shocked because the bike felt so slow. Imagine going from a Superbike animal to a Super Sport bike with traction control. And then the next time I went out for the next stint, and then the bike ended up in a tree somewhere. So and then I went back out for the next session and crashed again because I felt so slow. It was such a difficult feeling and feeling that I had on the bike because I didn't feel quick, and I just kept crashing. So I crashed 3 times, but at the end of that weekend, I managed to finish 5th in my first World Super Sport race. So fantastic result, really. But I felt like I could have probably pushed for a podium that weekend because I had 3 crashes, and it was really going downhill then. You know, it was like the idea was to come here, get my name on the map again for try and get a secure good World Super Sport ride for the following year. And I was just throwing bikes into the trees.
I'll tell you what, I'm going to have to ask this question before the end of this interview. Is racing bikes easy for you? No. I'm not meaning that's setting you up to sound big-headed, but it's not. It can hear the backstory that you worked your arse off, to get the family there, the training's there. I'm not saying you just sat around just smoking tabs and reading Raz, but it's that jump period.
Every sport that I do, I feel like I have to put more effort in. Like honestly, I go and play. If I play tennis or if I play squash, but I feel like I have to put too much effort in. I remember when I first went on the Superbike. No one really knows about this, but I come back home, I think, and I started to cry in the kitchen because my bones and my body felt so sore. So I remember having cortisone injections in my hips, in my shoulders, the first year on a Superbike, because it almost brought a lot of my old injuries back, and it was so physical and so hard. And I trained twice a day, every day, to be as fit as I could do on the bike, and probably overtrained. So it's definitely not easy. And but it becomes easier when it is, Chrissy. When on the days when you're out there, you're riding so hard, you then start to go backwards, you over trying. But I feel like the latter part of my career, I managed myself more, and I was more mature. I rode better, and I tried to fight for it less. I just felt I wanted it to come more naturally to me.
It's just I think how long have we been doing this pod now? 2 years, and I think Jesus, wet man. I think we need to see other people, mate. I think we've been together too long. But no, Chrissy, one of the first pods, he brought a book to my attention. It's like Bounce, the myth of talent. I always reference it, but it's just interesting sitting here just thinking. It's almost like you're pissing in the wind if it's not easy, but that's nice to hear that.
Yeah.
You've put you weren't sitting. Don't get me wrong. You weren't sitting there going, "Oh, I was a piece of." You put the work in. It's nice to hear that. Skills rewarded in that way.
Do you know, after the wildcards in World Super Sport, did that open up a door for like a full-time place in the championship?
And that was the first real time I knew there was some sharks in the business.
Right.
So I'm not going to mention names, but
go on, just one.
I was sitting here as we were, and one of them's a very well-known name, and I had a contract in front of me to sign, and we pre-agreed everything, shaking hands, done and dusted, that I was riding for Yamaha, the Factory World Super Sport team. And that was following the team that Cal Crutcher rode for, and before you knew it, it's World Superbikes, MotoGP. And this was my time. This was going to happen for me now. I rode 5 rounds for the Yamaha World Super Sport team and battled for some close podiums and finished top 5 every round, even 2 circuits I've never even been to in my life. Vallelunga and...
what a name.
I think it might have been Monza, but I never rode there and finished top 5. And this contract was there. And then, got it pulled from me from the following day. And Fabien Faure took the ride with a load of Yamaha France money.
So had you signed that contract?
So he signed the contract the following evening,
right, for
him to ride with a Yamaha France money. Wow. So I knew then it was like, actually, there's money needing to be booked to these teams to get these rides.
Yeah.
And
Was that going to be just like a free ride sort of thing back then, or were you on a salary?
paid ride with good bonuses.
Yeah.
At what age did you get your first paid ride then? You know, was it the air like the Rob Mack? Did he get paid?
Yeah.
Oh, right.
Yeah. 2005 was the first paid ride.
Straight into
Yeah,
professionalism.
so 2004 was a professional superbike rider at 19 years old.
Wow. Wow.
Which it was good at the time, but also, you know, and this is what I do say to a lot of younger riders coming up through, you know, try and enjoy the moment, because I feel like, you know, you need to remember sometimes you're still racing the bike, you know, and you need to enjoy that, because the enjoyment goes out of it when sometimes then you are paid to do a job and then you train every day and nothing else matters apart from you racing that bike. Whereas you need to look at the bigger picture around you, see what you're doing, see, you know, you're racing a bike at a race weekend, try and enjoy it, because I see a lot of these kids putting so much pressure on themselves, and I remember me doing that, and that's one of the main reasons why I stopped racing. So, but yeah, 2007 also opened up a lot of doors. So I was speaking to a lot of teams. I got a lot of interest from people once they realised I hadn't got that contract from Yamaha.
Yeah.
And then I got approached from Hansbury Honda with Garrett Tenkate. And
White and black livery, more white. Is that right?
It's white with the green Hansbury.
Yeah, that was
James
it.
Thousandths team at the time.
Yeah.
Sat down with them. Them guys were keen to have me in the team. And then they also were running a satellite team with Altea Honda. So the satellite team also had the Hansbury sponsorship, and I signed for them. So World Supersport on a factory-supported Honda team, and it went wrong before it even started. So went out to a place called Calafat. You ever heard of Calafat? Yeah. So back then they didn't have an ambulance. Had a van, and I turned up earlier. Robbie Rolfo was in the garage. He rode the World Superbike at the time, so I was early. And they said, "Why are you here? Do you fancy going out and just get your levers right and you get in position, everything ready for the following day's testing?" So I left the pit lane, come back in because the shifter was in the wrong position. They adjusted the shifter, and I went back out and high-sided in turn one and snapped my femur, snapped my tibia and fibia, and snapped my wrist and my metacarpals in my hand, and I was in a wheelchair for 10 weeks. So that was the end of that, and I was stuck in Spain for a fair bit, and managed to get me back home, and then I come back. I hadn't rode a bike for 6 months. Come back, and the first time back was at Nürburgring, and qualified second in a row on the grid. Hadn't rode for 6 months. Only done 2 laps on the bike before, and went into turn one. And Craig Jones got wiped out by a wild car rider called Onadi Tonus. Wiped him out, took me out, snapped my femur again. Yeah, and an inch
same
below,
femur,
an inch below where I broke it before. So
when you think of what could have been that year, you know, clearly having the pace of no testing and missing 6 months and an injury and having that sort of pace, it's one of them things. You know, if like luck had been a little bit different, you know, like
you know, like hand on my heart at the moment, it is what it is, and that's part of bike racing. And you know, people might feel like, oh, you know, holding a grudge on that. It is what it is, bit of bad luck, and everyone has bad luck through their careers. And I definitely had some bad luck that time then, but I got offered a World Superbike ride at the end of the year. So, didn't ride all season, just done the Nürburgring. But they could see that I had pace. I'd never rode the bike, qualified second row of the grid, and they offered me a ride the following year.
When did they stop racing at the Nürburgring?
So this was not the full track. This was 2008.
Right.
We rode Nürburgring, So,
but to get
2008 that was, and then they flew. They asked me to come out to Italy, so I sat down with them and they said, "Look, Robbie Rolfo's not riding for us next year. We want you to step up. We've seen what you've done in BSB over the past. We see the likes of Cameo, Johnny Raids, Sykesy, what them boys are doing at the moment, and we want you to step up in 2009 to World Superbike."
How did that go?
Difficult. The bike was amazing. The bike had absolutely everything on. And I see it these days when people sit there and they go, they're Uchios, the guys that are sitting with the riders and being there supporting. I didn't have that. But for me looking in now, that's something I needed. You know, I was on my own. I flew to every round on my own. The teams barely spoke any English. So I was really secluded. And it was a real tough time. You know, like deep down, I felt like I had good pace, the bike was good, but I just couldn't connect with the team, you know, and I don't feel like the bike was being put to its full potential. We had everything on it. We had Morelli, we had Olins, we had everything was right on that side, but we just never got the results. In the previous year, Robbie Rolfo never had any results, and I think it was round 5. I got home and I remember I was in the kitchen and broke down, started crying my eyes out, and just thought, this is not happening. And I split with the team. And then
was that your call? Did you?
Yeah.
I don't want to do this.
I just didn't know what I was achieving.
Yeah.
You know, I was crashing a lot and we were not getting anywhere. The title sponsor of the team had pulled out, Handspree had pulled out, and I just felt like it was a sinking ship. And just, made the decision to pull the plug, which is a pretty big thing to do, because a lot of riders might have just seen it out. They're in the World Superbike, what a dream, you know, but I just wanted to progress and wanted to move forward.
Yeah.
Things were not right. And I just remember crying my eyes out in the kitchen and pulled the plug. And then I think 2 days later, Sylvain Guintoli got injured. And then Big Jack called me up, Jack Valentine, and Jack pulled Dan in, said, we want to get you on a bike. And then a return back to Mallory Park again with Work Suzuki.
Did you feel like, because you'd been riding at a high level when you came back to BSB, did you feel like that had helped your sort of skill level?
Do you know the biggest thing was being able to be in a garage with people that I could understand and I could talk to. Yeah, but I know you're laughing, Dom.
But you're right.
At the time, it was such a big thing.
We're from the northeast. We suffer this every weekend, mate.
But you talk to any rider now, like if they've been in a team that's, you've got that language barrier, and it was real difficult, you know, especially when you're so focused on wanting to win races and want to go and win the championship. It was just a real tough, difficult time, and just to get back with a team like Crescent was so refreshing. So refreshing. And I think we qualified on the front row, first time on a Suzuki. The bike felt great, the team was fantastic. Mark Hanna was one of my technicians, along with Les Pearson. Great environment, great team, and all was going really well until Brooksy wiped us all out into the hairpin, which you might remember.
The bad boy Brooks days.
To be fair though, you only got that ride because you were.
That's it. Yeah. So I've got to thank him for that. But it was there was a lot of
swings and
roundabouts.
This is gonna get caught on Eurosport. These two.
That's it. Yeah. It was nice to be back.
Who was your teammate on the Suzuki?
So it was just me. There's one rider team. Wow. Yeah, one rider team.
Was that an extra bonus in your mind? Like, did you prefer being a one rider?
Do you know what was nice? Coming back to BSB and everyone was on the same tyres.
Yeah.
The biggest thing for me was coming back, knowing that you pull up to the grid and you knew that everyone out here was on the same tyres. So it's down to you, your crew around you to get the best setup for your bike with them tyres.
A little bit like the R6 Cup days.
It just brought it back to a bit of raw talent. You know, the guys around you, making sure you're happy with the crew, the guys that are around you, and you knew you're starting a race when there was no special tyres, there was no one with more grit, there's no one with the tyres that are going to last longer. It was the same. And as I said, the team was a great bunch as well. And I knew I got on a bike that could win races, and we had a real good go. And then things changed again. Sylvain could tell that he needed to be back on the bike. So Sylvain did come back early, and he knew that himself. But it's such a cutthroat industry, and I jumped on it, felt good, was going quick, and Sylvain come back, and then Sean Muir rang me, and I took Carl Harris's ride on the Hydrex Honda. So going from Honda to Suzuki to Honda in a matter of a month or so.
Guy Martin used to ride the Hydrex Honda for the roads back then, wasn't he? He used to do a little bit of BSB.
Yeah, so Stuart Easton was my teammate. Wow. We get on really well, me and Stuart, and it was again real nice atmosphere, and the bike was competitive. Then we were running pectoral electronics, which a little bit more finicky. The bike felt a lot more aggressive on the geometry compared to the Suzuki. I got on the Suzuki, it felt neutral, riding position. You could feel fast straight away on that, whereas the Honda took a bit more time to get used to.
Go on. Sorry, no, I'm just thinking it's interesting, like, his feedback now. So for the early days, making up feedback to even speak. No, it's good. No, but it's like, but
winging it, you mean?
Totally winging it. But no, but like, your return from Worlds to go back into BSB with Jack Valentine, there must have been, Jesus, like.
But also,
you're growing, you're learning, and everything like that.
Yeah, and you've got to feel comfortable on the bike to give the right feedback, because the feedback can be a little bit, I suppose, cross-wired with riders and crew chiefs, because if you're getting too much feedback, you could lose yourself as a rider, and then you lose the crew chief. Then the crew chief loses
Yeah.
You know, the I suppose the confidence in you giving your feedback is a vicious circle.
Yeah.
So
No, it was just a really nice point. Like, you know, at the beginning of it, it was just like,
haven't got a clue what's going on.
No, just not overcomplicating it. So no.
Yeah.
Obviously, with the changes in the rules for BSB and taking away the electronics, what was the main differences from a rider's point of view? So when you had full electronics to no electronics, what could you do then, which you can't do now?
Keep things more simple, you know, and I feel like you could concentrate on your riding a bit more. You know, back then with the electronic side of things, with traction control and anti-wheelie, I feel like a rider can get too lost into that as well, and then start trying to decide what it needs to feel like on every corner, or what the traction's doing. Because as I say, the first real guy I had with the traction control systems and engine retard systems, ignition cut, was with the Altair Honda team in World Superbike. So as I said, they had everything on that bike.
Yeah.
But I feel they were lost with it. There was they didn't know what they were doing. I was struggling with feedback because the bike was doing so much. It was tying me in knots. Traction was cutting out here, cutting out there. Was it anti-wheelie? Was it traction control? You can just get yourself in a muddle. Whereas I feel like going back to simple rules is down to the rider, the feel of the chassis, trying to get you right with the chassis. And then you can just give more constructive feedback rather than too much going on.
And with the Sean Muir days, were you with the team when they went from Hydrax Honda to the Swan Yamaha?
So 2010, I signed a deal with Work Suzuki with me and Kageyama.
Oh,
so it was me and Yuki.
Jack Valentine.
That's it. So it was me and Yukio. So because I had such a good run on the Suzuki straight out of the gate, I felt like that was the bike to be on for me. It just felt comfortable. The bike was neutral. It wasn't pitching too much. It just felt a nice bike to ride. So I signed for them in 2010.
So when you came back with Jack Valentine on the Suzuki, what was your championship position in that year then? You only did a couple rounds, didn't you? Then you got the boot, but then your first full year, what was your championship?
So the 2010 was the full year with Work Suzuki, with Kageyama, and we led the championship most of the year. And that was the first time they introduced the showdown.
It went right down to, and it was
all going really well until the last round, basically. Until Keo come out on fire and absolutely hand it to me on a plate. Yeah. So
there's some great shots from like not great for you, but sort of entertaining for the fans.
It's all part of the entertainment, isn't it?
So it was going into the last corner, wasn't it, at Alton Park, and took the front, and massive crash, and then did the bike go on fire?
Yeah, so I took out, but when Keo come past, I knew I needed to go with him. He was on fire that weekend, you know, he was going really quick, and I had to beat him in at least 2 of the races to stand a chance for the final race to win the championship in 2010. And I went in there, went a bit hot, in too deep. I wiped out Ellison. I felt really bad for him because he broke his femur that year, and I was thinking, have I damaged his femur again? And all I could think about was
thinking that at the time, weren't we? Were you thinking,
I was thinking of a lot of things, really. But I jumped straight back on the bike again, set off, done a full lap, come back around again through Druids, under the bridge, went to grab the brakes, no brakes. So I had to jump off the bike at about 130 miles an hour.
Massive.
And it caused a lot of chaos. And
it just went straight to Jack Valentine and pit.
Yeah, that's it. Oh no! But it was a pretty shit day, to be fair.
Would you have won the championship that year if there was no show, like if it was traditional rules?
I'm not sure. I led the championship quite a lot of the season, but I can't remember.
Because I'm sure Yuichi Kiyanari was miles back.
He was.
All year,
he just came really, really good at the end. But that was the showdown rules. It worked for some, worked for or not for others. But it was just part of it, and you had to ride with it. And it just went wrong. You know, people could say it was pressure, but I just felt like I needed to go with Keo. And we didn't have it. It wasn't going the best that weekend. But I used to love Alton Park, but it just didn't go right. And that was that. Yes, I remember sitting in the garage and crying my eyes out, thinking I've lost the BSB championship. It's my only chance. And then a Yamaha option come up, so Sean Muir switched to Yamaha for the following year, and that opened up talks again. So I had some meetings with Sean, and we were getting the full Monties to Super Duper Superbikes. So for 2011.
And was that you and Michael Howarty that year?
Yeah, me and M-Lab. So real good team. Mark was a great guy, and we got on really well. Don't get me wrong, you know, you get to a point where you want to beat each other, but that's I feel like that's a good vibe in a team, and we worked really, really well together. Moving the bike forward, developing it, feedback, information. So it was good.
At this point, was Rob Mack still managing you? Or
No, Rob stopped managing me end of 2007 when I left the team.
Yeah.
So
did you have a manager after that, or did you sort of?
I introduced the manager in 2012 when there was a lot more politics.
That's quite a big gap, isn't it?
Yeah. The only time I've had a manager was in 2012, apart from when Rob was. I wouldn't go as far as managing. I would have called it directing, offering advice, representing. Yeah. So, and on the flip side, we had quite a few bust ups in the garage, me and Rob, because we got to a point in the team where we all felt we were better than what we were doing. The engine builder, Kev, felt his engines were better than what I was achieving on the track. Chunky and the guys and Ian Presswood felt like their setup was maybe better than what I'm doing. Pirelli felt that their tyres were better than what they're doing, and the engine's too powerful, the chassis wrong, Tommy's riding it wrong. I felt like I was better. It was a
I tell you, back then, if I had to have a straightener with any of the team bosses, I wouldn't have bought it. See the size of his hands.
Yeah, but we had quite a few to dos at the end, and it was time. Time to part ways.
Do you still have a good relationship with Rob now, or did that sort of?
I've been watching all these videos. At the end of the day, no grudges held. I mean, we got to move on. Such a small industry, this paddock's a big family.
I only sort of know him through Twitter, and then we went to his house to do a podcast.
Yeah.
He just came across as such a lovely guy. But
he had an angry side. Yeah, an angry side, but
never actually got to see him work.
Yeah, no. So the manager side was a real difficult thing for me in 2012. So I introduced some guys. They were going to look after a lot of the PR side, because I was busy, like every weekend, week in, week out, and took a lot of things on myself that maybe I shouldn't have done as well. But all that and my training regime that I wanted to keep up with, I trained every day still, and it all just got a bit too much. There was a lot of people that got pissed off because I got a management firm involved, but it was for my best interest.
Yeah.
But as soon as I made it my best interest, it pissed a lot of people off. Which is,
that's really interesting. You think having a manager would actually make their lives easy?
Some people didn't see it that way.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Just to go back from 2012 to 2011, obviously it was like the pinnacle of your career, and like probably if you interviewed every BSB fan, it's probably like 99% of people would probably say that's like the greatest race and the greatest final lap. Obviously it was a brilliant, the full season was amazing, but then it came down to you and Hopper at the last round here at Brands, and look at
him smiling. That's the best thing about this sport. It's like you're smiling thinking about it.
I'll tell you what, I'll find the last lap and then you can like talk us through it. But yeah, talk us through that. Yeah,
you could hear them borderline, like Jack and Whit borderline having a stroke. Voice,
didn't it?
No, honestly, that you could hear the blood pressure on the head. It was incredible, man.
That was an absolutely unreal day for us both. I mean, I read Hopper's book. I don't know if you read his book.
Yeah.
We'd both been through a lot. And like, as I said to you, with the broken femurs, the old injuries I had when I was younger, we had a real tough few years, and we both laid it on the line, and it was and I said to myself, I'll come back in the box. I want to win this race, and I'm sure he was staying the same. But it was
warriors.
And every corner I think we passed each other on, and everyone knew that it was going to boil down to the final lap of the season. And Stuart Higgs got what he wanted. It was entertainment, and it's still probably one of the most talked about races in BSB, which is nice to be a part of.
This is nothing against.
You were a Hopper fan.
No. But one of my favourite questions is, and it always pops up in motorcycle pub quizzes, like, who won that race? And no offence to Shaky Byrne.
Yeah,
but like everyone goes
like to the Eurosport. It's the only time ever in history they've not followed the race winner. I think they're contracted to. I could be talking out of turn, but to follow the race winner across the line.
Yeah,
but that's what I mean. But
no one was interested with it.
No, they weren't. Even Shaky would have watched that, and you just think,
what happened? Yeah.
No, but that's
also. I remember watching this live, and as it was coming to the last few laps, I was convinced Michael Avdy was going to get involved and try and hold the hop and stuff. But him and Ellison, and I think there was somebody else, just kind of stepped back. This is going on to the second last. Do you still get goosebumps watching this?
Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah, the race was born in that. Me and Hopper had more pace in that race, but we both raced to the championship. Uh-huh. We both knew what's the point of trying to, chase shaky. We both raced to our championship position, and whoever was in front is winning the championship.
Is that Alistair Seeley in that on the Taz?
It would have been
Relentless bike.
No, so you've got Ellison, me, Hopper, and Laverty. Oh, Brooks is coming up. Yeah.
I want you to shout out what was your biggest, oh shit, I'm going down here? Or did you have any of them?
Yeah, every corner.
That's what I mean. But which one? I've lost it.
Yeah, so the biggest one was Dingledale. I mean, I've done a lot of track days, and you guys know going through Dingledale.
I've never been around
trying to pass someone through Dingledale, even on a track day that's 15 seconds a lap faster. Yeah. It's a bit of a actually. I would save it to a few corners.
There's been times in like practice sessions, qualifying sessions where I've caught like much slower people.
Yeah, and I've looked
at the inside and thought, "Wow, that's too risky." And then I think back to pass.
You'll have to point that out on the set. I've never been around here.
Yeah, you see my front forks bottom out.
Yeah. But funny enough, your legs
like bumping, my leg comes
fully,
off.
Twisted. Know what you're saying about
I knew that. Every corner he passed me on, I needed to pass him back because I knew he had the punch out on the start-finish straight. His bike was quicker onto the start-finish.
Yeah. Were you just getting +0 every lap?
Yeah. It was a hard race.
Yeah.
And we both, as I keep saying, rode to the championship. We just knew wherever we were on track, we needed to be in front of one another to win this championship.
Watching this now, did you enjoy the race? What you achieved is unbelievable, but did you enjoy this?
So if you see that point there when I come past, my crew pitted me +0 Hopper. At that time was the first time we changed our positions, and I knew Hopper was behind me. So I knew I needed to get past Ellison. And these were the laps of my life. You could see I was trying to square it off, fire it out, down through Graham Hill Bend. This was my weakest point through Graham Hill Bend.
Did you enjoy this?
I did, but it was a bit of a myth.
I'm getting full goosebumps.
It was probably the best and worst lap I've ever done, because the worst lap for me was I had to square it off. I had to turn it in tight because I knew Hopper would come underneath me. So I'm squaring off every corner, and the Yamaha needed to, be nice, flowing, smooth, run that corner speed through the bends. And I knew Hopper was going to be breathing down my neck. So
could you hear his bike behind you? Did you know he was like right up your chuff?
Yeah, especially going into Druids. But at this point here, I knew, coming on to the start-finish soon, I knew Hopper was there, and this needed to be the lap of my life. And but still, get it turned, get it squared off, and get the punch out the turns.
So we're currently watching lap 18. Is that right?
It's 19.
19. Sorry, going on to it's on the penultimate. So after a few beers,
so you're really defensive there.
Yeah, and what we didn't know was who was better where. Normally in a race you can start to feel what the rider's doing, where his bike's good, where it's so like here you can see I turn in tight in a minute, try and protect my line. No, you're not having it. So I just knew that every corner I needed to protect myself to make sure Hopper couldn't get through. But this was the lap of my life. You can see I'm holding it tight there again.
You can hear them.
This here was my week. You see Hopper hanging out, but I needed to turn tight there. But he got the drive out. If you keep watching now, if you watch on my visor, you see the red light come on when I hit the limiter.
All right.
What did you think then when he kicked? Did you think,
I was like, no. And then I see him run wide a bit. And this is where I remember to today, this point here, when I come off of the brow in a minute, my rear wheel took off and I felt like it was going to land on his back because it felt a lot closer. But here I needed to make this move. And then, Hopper manages to square it off here. And
at this point, normally in a race, if someone leads into there, that's pretty much
you're like, okay, that's it.
Yeah.
Here we go. This is the move.
This is the
move of my life, this one here. Square it off and you see, boom. Ooh. But I had to make that move. If I didn't make that move, I think Hopper would have won that championship. Again, there, holding a protective line.
Were you playing anything in your mind, like as a mantra or anything? Or do we just...
No, just protect myself. Like here, again, lucky enough here, Hopper run deep. I went back to, I think we were third in there all weekend, but I went back to second gear. You'll see I'm trying to stand the bike up because I couldn't shift because the rear was spinning so much.
And then at what point did you realise you'd won?
Well, I looked across. Do you remember they had the board there with the positions on? So I looked across and wow, what a feeling, what a day. Everything that you go through in life, family ups and downs. So as I said before, the year of 2008, my dad had throat cancer. He was in a bad way with cancer. I had 2 broken femurs. I lost a good friend, Craig Jones. All these sort of things went through my mind. It was
literally on that cool down lap. Literally.
It was like, wow. All this stuff that we've gone through to go and win this championship, and we done it last lap, last race. And,
did your eyes just stream straight away?
Yeah, it was just the most surreal feeling. Like poor Jack, being a team player. So you can see Sean Muir, and so the guy there behind, he was the head of Swan. So you can see him all pale face, but
everyone looks so young, don't they?
Yeah. But what a day for the championship. It was the second year of the showdown coming into it, and it was perfect.
So it's your fault.
It's my
The
fault.
fact that the showdown stuck.
Is this would you say this is like the single best moment of your life?
Yeah. Oh,
is
married.
Is my wife going to listen to it? Obviously getting married.
After getting married. Birth of your kid.
Yeah, I would say it was the pinnacle of my bike racing career, and to do it in such a way that was memorable for everyone that is into bike racing. I walk around the supermarket and people bump into me that have never even heard of British Superbike races, but they've watched this race, and
wow.
Yeah, what a day. I mean, there's sponsors, personal sponsors, and you can see I lost the championship for them guys the year prior to that in 2010 and took it away from them in 2011.
I tell you what, that single clip just described everything about bike racing. Yeah. There's a winner, and unfortunately there's a loser in it. You just saw that the electric. As everyone knows, 6 thousandths of a second could have gone either way. So incredible. The first thing I wanted to do was stop.
Who came over to see you straight away?
So these two lads here.
They're his trainers.
Brothers. They've been following me for years. They were guys that walk around the tracks with every round they had their hair shaved into a helmet design. Yeah, so one of them had my helmet design, the other one had the James Ellison helmet design. So, but what a feeling! Look, like the crowd. It was amazing, absolutely amazing day. But I think it was just good for everyone that's involved. To boil down to that, and everything that we'd been through was a dream come true, and it's what we go racing for.
Yeah, definitely. Can you remember Tony Carter, the US guy?
Yeah.
Whatever happened to him?
Yeah, I was going to ask that.
Yeah, I don't know. I think he done quite a lot of journalism, didn't he, for different magazines and different publications, but I'm not sure. What a day, what a dream come true, and that's what we go racing for. And there's a lot of things that actually happened that year as well. I mean, I rode all year with a busted collarbone. So like Hopper had these dramas as well. We both, which also all this stuff gets forgotten about because people, remember the last lap, the last race.
One of the cameras is just stuck there. We're just talking about Hopper there, and I think I listened to his book, not read it a while ago, but I thought it was one of the best motorbike races or biographies that I've read or listened. The ups and downs, and obviously because you were so involved, I bet it was different for you sort of reading it. But what was your relationship like with Hopper when you were racing and afterwards?
Yeah, so during the racing, it was. It was. I mean, I'd left that team and gone to Yamaha with Sean Muir, Swan Yamaha, and then Hopper had stepped in. So, we both had our dramas that year as well, and we both come from a tough few years. John had his issues as well, which people have read about in the book, and I come back from sort of some big injuries, being in a wheelchair, and my dad with cancer, and then losing Craig. There was just quite a lot, and it was, we're only talking a matter of sort of 2 years, and. That year, earlier on in the season, I think it was Alton Park. I think it was maybe round 1 or 2. I broke my collarbone. So all year I had to have, that braced up most of the year. So that was an aggravating pain all year, really. I couldn't, especially at some of the tracks with fast direction change, I really struggled. And then John had these issues. But we both, I think we knew that we've got a chance here, winning, and never really spoke to John much, to be fair, during the season. And whether that's just being competitive or not, but I did try and keep myself to myself. I turned up here on a Thursday and I was here to do a job. I really treated it like as professional as I could be. And not to say I was boring, I didn't want to talk to people, but I was just here doing a job. You know? And we never really actually met too much, apart from the PR bits and pieces that we used to do for BSB. But we just both got on with our job. And
afterwards, have they had a chance to sort of...
So don't forget, John rode for me. So when I run a race team in 2016, Hopper rode for me.
Yeah, cool.
He's a character. To this day, I'm still trying to work him out.
Really?
Yeah, he's a character. But he's, it was good. There was no animosity. But as you saw in the footage then, the first person I wanted to see when I stopped at Druids was John. Because he could have won the race.
Yeah, of course.
20 foot further on, John could have been the champion. And I stopped, and as we crossed the line, I gained so much more respect for him because it could have gone his way. And I wanted to just stop and congratulate him and say, hard luck, it is what it is. It could have got, But he was gone. Yeah, I think he come straight back to the garage and went straight back to his motorhome. Didn't even speak to the team. But that could have been me. But
just out of
it went my
interest,
way.
Would you have reacted like
I was
that?
going to say, if it was the other way, how do you think you would have reacted?
I probably would have thrown the bike on the floor and kicked it and smashed it. And,
No, seriously. Would you?
Yeah. I, deep down, I think I'd have struggled.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Understand.
It takes a big
No, I
man to
really
say
do.
that.
No, I think I'd have really struggled. How long would it have taken me to get back to realization of no, I'm still going racing the following year. I'm still with a good team. I'm still, because at that time I hadn't signed a contract for another team, but it would have been tough. You know, I think John had been MotoGP. For me, it was progression. For me, it was winning that championship will give me the step up to World Superbikes.
Yeah.
Again, hit by a load of politics and all down to money and funding. If I can't bring the money, I'm not getting a ride. So reality set in at the end of 2011 for me, knowing there's no progression.
And yeah, was that difficult to take?
That was difficult to take because, you know, I was sitting in meetings as the British Superbike champion and with 2 good years in BSB plus the experience before World Supersport, World Superbike, being asked to bring 100 to 150,000 pounds into a Superbike team. But 2-3 years prior to that, your BSB champion will go into World Superbikes being paid a load of money. The sport changed.
You were actually at the crossover.
Yeah, and you know, riders nowadays might talk like Taron. You know, I went through what he went through. He assumed that you'd step up, but things have changed. You know, and it'll come down to bringing funding into the team, and that was a realization of actually maybe I might not be able to progress. You know, at the time I was 26 years old. And there was a hurdle, and it was trying to find funding to bring into a World Superbike.
Same as Taz, it's like same age as Taz.
Yeah, so it's, you know, Taz,
thing, really.
yeah, won BSB, assuming to step up, and I think he come across the same hurdles.
If bear in mind you've been through exactly what Taz has, like won the championship and then been asked to take money to the next step. If you could give Taz any advice from what your experiences were, what would you say?
I feel now a lot of BSB riders, current BSB riders, are at the realization of if I can earn money and be on a competitive ride and still enjoy bike racing, I'm happy.
Why give
here.
it up?
I'm happy here. Why give it up? Why chase or pursue something that's going to be very difficult to get? How difficult now for, you know, BSB riders to move forward into World Superbikes and be on a competitive ride with the current crop of good British riders in World Superbikes. It's just a difficult time, I feel, to sort of move forward. But yeah,
is that going to get worse? It's definitely for me. It's definitely become the game of haves and have-nots. And if you got the money, but my question remains: is this going to get worse?
Yeah, I feel like for me in BSB, there's World Championship caliber.
Yeah,
for me last weekend, I feel Taz could have done better. Deep down, he wasn't at his best.
No,
you know,
injured.
Yeah. He's had quite a few crashes recently. A transition to a close to World Superbike spec bike.
Yeah,
I don't think he done what he could do. You know, I feel if Jason would have went there, the way Jason's riding at the moment, I feel he might have done better than Taron. But I rate Taron. Like, I feel him, you know, Brad for me is a good, one of the next guys to come up through. But I feel the current time for Taz is difficult. You know, he's had a lot of crashes as well that have been quite, you know, spontaneous, as in like not sure what happened. Could knock your confidence.
So going back to the end of that year, so after you'd won and you still had these aspirations of World Superbikes and climbing the ladder, and then you realised that the politics meant basically that wasn't going to happen, and you're saying like nowadays there's quite a lot of riders in BSB that can sort of see the future in BSB. They're making money, riding in British Championship, enjoying it and doing well. Did you consider that? Did you think to yourself, I could do like this for like the next 10, 15 years and like make it and have like a decent living and like live it, or as soon as you realised you couldn't go to World Superbikes, we're like, fuck.
No,
this
yeah. So 2012 was just a year of a lot of politics, loads. Just every little thing that could be a political challenge was there for me. Even like the management side, that was difficult, you know. And it was, but again, you forget the realization of you're running in British Superbikes with a good team, winning races, being paid. you forget that, because you're so tunnel visioned on succeeding and winning races. You don't think about, actually, I'm being paid here. I'm racing a bike in front of fans and people that, follow me. And, but you go there to do a job. And I think that takes the enjoyment out of it. And that's what I say to a lot of these kids, as I said earlier, keep enjoying it, because you don't know how long you're going to be around for. You don't know, if the sport's going to change or you can't afford to do it. So just try and enjoy it. But it's difficult to enjoy it when you're not getting results. It's just a vicious circle.
You're the first rider that it's just winning means more than the money.
100%.
There we are.
Yeah,
no, you know what I mean?
I wanted to succeed. I wanted to move forward. And when I say succeed, and again, this is not talking out of term, the young kids would dream to win a British Superbike Championship. I mean, your dream at the moment, Chris, is to go and win British Superbikes, and I think for me, it was to win British Superbikes. Great, now let's see if we can go to World Superbikes on a competitive package and try and win World Superbikes. Well, no, you can't do that. You can if you can
have the money.
To,
Do you know, as in terms of your personality trait, do you think that if you did go to World Superbikes and did that, you'd have just felt exactly the same about motor? Let's go to MotoGP.
100%. Yeah, and that's the
so
fire in your belly.
You're never ever going to be satisfied.
That's what my missus would say. No, but this is
poor woman.
No, but I think,
she must be the only woman in the pub going, I can't satisfy it. I can't, and everyone, but what?
Yeah,
what?
What do you mean, what? Yeah, so for me, I think, I want to keep moving forward, whether it's work, whether it's training, whatever it is I do, I want to try and succeed at. But
just on the last few episodes, I've asked the last few guests.
Oh, this is good.
Just in terms of your career, when you look back on what you achieved and the opportunities that you had, on a scale of 1 to 10, how satisfied are you with what you did?
10 being most satisfied you can possibly be, and 1 being...
I feel over the last few years more satisfied. I've got 2 kids. I've got a successful business, lovely wife, family, and I'm more satisfied now. Whereas the few years that I stopped, I still wanted to succeed more and do more, because I felt like there was more in me. I was riding the best I've ever rode in 2012. I had a fantastic year. Didn't go my way. The showdown didn't work for me that year, but I had a fantastic season. But I suppose it's just being competitive, But as I said a minute ago, sometimes you need to take a step back and realise what you're doing and where you are. And don't get me wrong, you still got to have the fire and passion in your belly to go and win races and still train hard and perform the best you can perform. But you still got to try and have that enjoyment element to the racing.
I tell you what, let's round Chrissy's question off to not just your race career, your life at the moment.
Yeah.
Put a number on it.
Out of 10?
No, 10 being...
It's got to be 10 out of 10, but
yeah.
Every day I go to work, I try and improve what I'm doing or moving forward. But I suppose that's just the mentality that I have, But I think over time, as years go on, I would start to realise that actually, you are what you are. You are doing what you're doing. But something that is a real nice feeling for me is being involved in a race team and getting the feel. For Shaky will say the same. I still got that feeling of wanting to win so much, and I'm so passionate about what I do because I still want to go and win, but I'm not out on track. I'm in the pits.
At what point in 2012 did you decide to hang the leathers up?
Probably midway through the season. Yeah, I stopped and I still had a fantastic season through the rest of the year.
But you knew that this was going to be your last year.
I was not enjoying it. I was still training every day. I was still putting and that's what sort of wore me down. I was dieting, I was training, I was putting everything I could into it, but I was like, well, but am I going to progress and move forward? Possibly not. So
briefly talk me through, you won the championship, and then that year, where were you? Was that
the following season?
Where were you at that point?
2012 following season was Swan Yamaha still.
Yeah.
Same team.
Yep.
Same environment, same colour bike.
Did you like that colour bike? Be honest.
I think it's a bit like Marmite, but it really stood out. A lot of people loved it.
Did you run the number 1 that year?
Yeah, run number 1. Yeah.
Where did you finish that year?
That year, 3rd. So I finished 3rd, 1st, and 3rd.
Yeah.
Right.
And then,
Jesus.
It's very, very rare that at that sort of age, so you're like 27. At the age of 27, there's only you and Casey Stoner I can think of that chose to walk away from the sport.
So for me, reading between the lines, I actually bumped into Stoner at Goodwood Festival of Speed a few years ago, and I wanted to talk to him because I feel like the political side took a big chunk of the enjoyment out of racing a bike for him. I feel like we were in this going through the same issues, but a far different scale. Him obviously earning a lot more money than me, but it's the same sort of scenarios that took a lot of the enjoyment away from racing a bike.
I tell you what, you bang on the money. So it's you, Casey, and Taylor. Did you mention that?
No, but
Taylor. No, Taylor. I'm trying to think like you say because Taylor was 27. Yeah, roughly same age. Yeah.
Did obviously because it was your choice. A lot of people get forced away, or they carry on racing, and the performances go, and they end up like leaving, a little bit like what Rossi did. Did you struggle that like the year after?
So this is the thing. Yeah, you got two ways of looking at it. You can having a real crap season, thinking to yourself, sit there, look in the mirror, and go, actually, I've lost it. I haven't got the minerals for this anymore. I need to stop. Or you've got the flip side of leaving on a high and winning races. They're both very difficult to manage. So for me, it's taken quite a few years to come to the realization of letting it go. But I've still got the fire in my belly, and for me to be involved in a team and with two young riders is an amazing feeling for me. I still get that feeling of winning and wanting to win. But you look at two different scenarios where you look at Shaky had it taken away. I made the decision to stop. So you got the two different guys there. We were battling for the last few years in BSB. That it's two different scenarios, but it's just how you manage that, and over time I've managed it, and I'm busy doing what I'm doing in my business, and that, whether that masks it, whether that helps me, but I'm happy doing what I'm doing, and still being involved in the racing industry that I've been involved with for years and years.
You've got to be one of the most busiest people that I know, because
you haven't even plugged this yet.
When you go like on any track day, or even loads of the Superbike teams and loads of the junior classes have like your design, and you must do I know I use you for various things. You must be incredibly busy business wise.
It's really good, and it's I'd say 80% of it is in our industry, so that's really nice being involved, and also I'm also venturing out to different other businesses for design work and graphics and website design, which is good. But for me, I feel maybe because I did make the decision on stopping, for me being involved in the motorsport in a different way is very good for me and my mentality. Like of being part of the sport still in any which way, whether it's seeing a young kid win a race because he's got my graphics kits on, or winning a race and he's got my helmet design on. It's probably just a nice feeling for me to still be involved in that way, or if I can help someone out.
And as soon as you walked away from the sport, I presume you had decent offers to continue racing, and it must have been difficult to see like a lucrative pay package and like a good thing, and thinking, I'm actually walking away from that.
I was offered like far bigger money than I was previously on to stay.
Are we talking double, triple?
Double.
Wow. That like you say,
did that not even slightly tempt your decision?
No,
because it was never about the money. It was always
it was about wanting to progress.
He's one of these secret Euro millionaires. That's what I was having that chat today. So, like he just won the Euro millions, and like when he was like 18,
right.
money.
No, I mean and it was a very short period of earning money. I'm talking of a few years. I was paid earlier on. I was fortunate. I was at my own house at 19, and this was being paid to race a superbike. But then I felt like at the start you appreciate it more. You're racing a superbike and you're being paid for it. What a dream come true. But as time goes on, you want to progress, you want to move forward. You become more professional. You deal with more politics. You train harder. You're more engrossed in it, and you forget about sometimes the bigger picture. And I think that all ends up eating into the enjoyment of going racing.
Class. And just before we move on from the riding era, do you have any regrets from your racing career?
This is nothing to do with the team. The team itself, the guys involved in the team were all a great bunch of guys, and we were all there for the same reason. But I stayed in the Virgin Yamaha team too long. it got to a point where maybe I should have left at least a year earlier, or even 2 years maybe. But then again, if I'd have left 2 years prior to that, I might not have got the opportunity in World Superbikes and got my name on the map there. So yeah, all these are lovely things looking after, but it is what it is.
And after leaving the sport, you not that long later, you set up your own team to race in BSB. Was that always the intention, or did you get sort of sponsors and think to yourself, oh, this is an idea?
Yeah, so I was involved in a team prior to that, just with a bit of direction and working with the riders, doing a lot of design work for the team, and then the opportunity sort of. Well, say opportunity. I think I created the opportunity, and then lost a lot of nights sleep over the following months trying to find sponsorship. I speak to MLAV quite a bit, and we have a little chuckle about what needs to be done and what goes on. And I was doing everything from booking in hospitality, meet and greets, tours, sponsorship, graphics, websites, promotion, design, meeting sponsors, parts.
Did you see it from a different point?
100%.
Because you've always been the rider, just turning up, getting paid, riding the bike. Did
100%.
you? Yeah.
But on the flip side, yes, 100%, there is so much more that goes into getting that bike out on track. But on looking at it from a different point of view, the riders don't need to know about that.
Yeah.
You get on that bike and you race that bike as best as you can ride it and as fast as you can go. That is your job. Your job is not to know about the parts that they've had to machine out the back of the garage or repair a part that you know. So you can look at it two different ways. But for me, you see so much more that has to go into getting these bikes on track.
And obviously, quite a personal question, so you can tell us to piss off if you want. But to set up that Superbike team, what sort of financial?
£680,000, and a lot of private funds that I lost into the team because I wanted to succeed again. And this was what my wife said would be detrimental to me, is I've got my heart into it. Yeah. My heart was in that, and
it's put 680.
I wanted to succeed, yeah. So, we've got some good sponsorship involved. We've got some great guys, personal sponsors of mine over the years. So, we've got the budget together, and the plan was to sort of move forward for the following year, potentially get a bit more support from Yamaha as well.
Who were your riders back then?
So originally it was Stuart Easton and John Hopkins.
Right. That's class. And then, whose idea was to get Hopper on?
Well, at the time, I believe...
You built a team when you went...
So was he with... I think he was coming back from World Superbikes, maybe.
Did you?
So it was... No. I think some people might look in and say it was Stuart Higgs. But no. This was a decision that was sort of brought up, and then what a perfect story.
Yeah. It was brilliant.
Like a perfect story. So it was ideal.
Did you ever used to just drop in when you were racing the brands and just be like,
that's what you want to be there. Watch your line. This line here.
Yeah, watch your line into clearways, mate. Wink, wink.
Yeah. No, it was a good vibe. The team all run really well and smoothly. And then we had to change. We parted ways with Stuart. It was just never happening, and I felt for him as well. It just never quite clicked. And then we got Brock Parks in for a few rounds as well.
He paid me Yamaha.
That's it.
And then did you run that team for 1 year?
1 year. So we got to November, and then I said to myself, if I get to December and don't get a title sponsor, I won't run the team. I still had a few small financial sponsors that were going to commit, but not enough to run the team. And I didn't want to run the team with not enough funds. Get halfway through the season and start owing everyone money. I didn't want to do that. I wanted to be fully prepared for year two, and be ahead of the game. But it wasn't to be. And then parked all that, and then moved on.
Did you have something else lined up? You thought, I'm gonna have to pack this in. But did you go job hunting, or did you get headhunted to do? You know what I mean? How did you keep in the paddock? There was quite a
few riders that approached me for like management. There was a few other manufacturers that were talking to me about being involved in the team for like whether it's rider coaching or being involved in the team just from the managerial side, which was nice. But again, I felt like I just brought myself back home and was like, no, I'm just going to concentrate on my business, and then start building my business.
And is that like the end game is a very final wording, but it's no. Are you just going to keep focus on the business element, or would you like to get into management? Is it bit more of a future game plan?
Was this then or?
No, now. I mean,
No, yeah. I mean, for me now, like, I'm involved in the Rich Energy RMG team, and I help out the riders where I can. So I go out on the track.
So, what is your job role? If you had to give yourself a title,
so I work with Dave Neal. That's very unhappy, to be fair, because he wanted to try and get me on a podcast, but you guys have beat me to it, so he's got the right hump. He has. Sorry, Dave.
I'm over the moon because I actually give my ring Tuesday to catch up with him. He goes, "Oh, what are you doing this weekend, son?" And I'm like, "Oh, we've got air. We've got Tommy on." He goes, "You haven't." I went, "We have."
Yeah, he's not happy. Sorry, Dave. We'll speak to you tomorrow. But it's. So I work with Dave, collaborate on social media, do a lot of the graphics, do all the team's, website management, do a lot of design work in the team. Yeah. But I also work with the riders as a rider coach. So the two riders that we got, a dream to work with. They're fast. From the word go out in Spain, they were fast. They stepped on the Yamaha, loved the bike, and clicked straight away. So for me, I'll be, wear my heart on my sleeve. I'm a very small part of the jigsaw puzzle, but I do feel like I could bring a lot of experience and knowledge to the team, especially with the R1 and the characteristics of the bike. So I go out on track and I watch a lot of what's going on the track. I bring the information back if it's relevant, because I do also feel that there can be too many people's opinion in the garage. So I'd overview it, see what the rider's talking about, back up or support the rider if I've seen that on track. But I tend to spend a lot more time with the crew chiefs. So when the riders are at the garage, I tend to spend a lot more time sitting down with the crew chiefs.
What sort of... I'm just trying to think in a traditional sort of team setup. Yeah. What you wouldn't tend to have somebody in that place, but what are you doing with the crew chiefs?
So we sit down, we go through data, what the rider's feeling, or what he may feel on track that is not reflecting to what the data's saying. But I could say, well, no, actually, he's feeling that because of this, or that part of the track is giving you this feeling, or this corner, you do need to be able to take it like this, or he's losing time on the brakes there on so-and-so, or this rider's doing this and he's faster in that sector. So rather than overcomplicating it with the rider too much, sometimes I sit down more with the crew chief.
And do you know, because you work with both riders, obviously, but sometimes in a team you'll have like a number one and then a number two, like say Rossi and Colin Edwards, where it was very obvious. Yeah. In the OMG team, although Brad's doing better at the moment, they're both capable of winning races. Is that quite difficult to, like, if I guess your goal is a 1-2 result, so you always have something to achieve, but is it quite difficult to have like two riders fighting for alpha male sort of thing?
No, I think it's really good at the moment. It's a good vibe in the team. The team works really well. There's no egos in the team. Everyone gets on. Everyone's there for the same reason. And we've got two fast riders, fast, young, hungry riders. And, at the moment, you could say on paper Brad's doing better. Carl is so fast, in certain parts of the track, he's fast and faster than Brad. But for me, I think it's important that we merge the two positives of the riders. So if I can get some feedback from Brad, pass it to Carl, and vice versa, both riders will improve over the weekend. So if I can merge them two together, or something that I do feel is quite important sometimes, if both riders are complaining with the same issue, I believe sometimes it's quite a good idea to translate that to both riders, because a rider could feel he's got an issue and it's only him, but it might be a track condition or the temperatures rose and all the riders are struggling with it. So I feel it's a good idea to bring that information over and say, actually, Brad, Carl's got the same issue. So probably, because the riders straight away, we turn into all these positives into a huge negative. So I think it's important for the riders to look at the positive side as well.
Sorry, have you ridden that new R1 in anger?
No, I want to. I want to have
no, because it's interesting, because you've got such that wealth of knowledge, and it must be bugging you to go, actually, I want to know how that bike rides a little bit.
But what's interesting is a lot of their feedback is similar to the old R1. The characteristics of it, the way it needs to be rode, but then again, I suppose person that's open up a can of worms is Top Rack. The way he rides it, he's so late on the brakes now, which I feel this is a quite a big issue over time with riders and crew chiefs, as in the rider's braking too late. But you know how it is on track. If a rider's braking too late, you need to try and get your chassis to behave better when you're needing to brake later, because that's the way of moving forward. But the old R1, their characteristics were getting it stopped, run that momentum and corner speed through the turn. So, for our guys, when they get out on track on their own, they can carry the corner speed. But when they come up to some other guys that are braking too deep, squaring the corners off, we need to try and get our chassis behaving like that a bit more, so they're able to do that.
It is crazy when you see like what Top Rack can do, because so you'll be braking from like 150 mile an hour with the wheel off, and then that wheel doesn't then touch the tarmac until the bike's doing like 50, 60 miles an hour. So it's
to program the engine brake and tack it again. But I tell you what, the thing that shocked me most is, like, you know, you're talking about corner speed carrying there. Johnny Ray could not outbrake Top Rack this weekend. He tried everything. Even he was saying it was like the brake. He had brake fade. You know what I mean? You think he had no answer for Top Rack on the brakes, and you think, but like you say, that almost goes against what.
Yeah, it does, and I think
they've rebraced the frame. I heard one of the comments.
Yeah, there's more bracing now. But then again, you're gonna have to. I mean, So I was up at World Superbikes on Friday, and I was out on track watching a bit, and then we went into the garage. But like, you know, you've got to move forward, and you know, if you can brake later but still reach the apex and still get it turned and fire it out, it's I suppose the quickest way of finding a lap time.
Do you know, if you had to just imagine there was like a national series, all national series were like up against each other, so you had to have like a BSB team to go to like a world championship sort of thing, and you had to take 5 riders from the current BSB lineup. Which five riders would you take? Bear in mind they're all going to be riding, like, say, Yamahas, so like
Carl Ride, Bradley Ray, Taryn McKenzie, Jason O'Halloran, and Maurice Kieran.
All Yamaha riders.
So I asked who was it? We asked that the other day, and they said almost exactly the same 5. Christian Hidden.
Yeah.
He put himself in instead of Rory Skinner, but he gave the same. And it's very interesting that all 4 are the current Yamaha riders. Because it's I mean they'll look like very dominating. Like and it seems like the FS3 Kawasaki's made a step as well, to be fair. Like the between the 4 Yamaha riders and the 2 Kawasaki riders, they seem to have jumped like sort of the likes of Bridewell and the PBM riders.
It just makes me, it's incredible the difference between Superbike and Super Stock, because you don't see the Yamahas in stock. Tim Neve is obviously is literally that only exception. There's no other Yamaha, and you think, well, how?
Well, this is you know. As well,
there's
like,
that many differences.
The Kawasaki's the bike to be on. The Honda's the bike to be on. The Yamaha, like you put a few more Yamahas on there, I think that'd be probably further up the grid.
It would be interesting, wouldn't it?
But it's just Super Stock. It's always.
There's a million ways to answer that question, but it's
always the way.
I'll have a quick look on our Patreon page, because we always get a few questions. Just whiz this up. So first one is from Travis.
Oh shit! Carry on.
First question is from Travis McClurg, and in Hopkins' book he writes about his already busted finger being hit and opened up by a stone from Brooks's bike, and afterwards Brooks saying, "Pity it wasn't worse." You were the one who spoke up and said this was too far. Can you remember the trip to the podium? And was there ever any animosity or awkward moments between riders who didn't get along that you were stuck in between of or been part of? That was in the book, wasn't it? Hopkins's book.
Yeah, it was.
Were you shocked when that happened?
Yeah, I can't really remember it to this day, but I just remember we were always a little bit on the edge, because we were also competitive as well. Yeah, you know, and like none of you wanted to let your guard down, and there was always a bit of an atmosphere.
Mm-hmm. I don't think Donald know that story, do you? The one I've just referenced. So basically, Brooks's wheel span a rock up, and it split Hopkins's finger.
I saw the stitches open, and everything like that.
On the podium, Hopkins said, like, "Look, that was off a stone," and Brooks said, "It's a shame." What was it? It was a shame. It was just a finger.
Some comment,
and like Hopkins couldn't believe. Like, it was quite a thing in his book, wasn't it?
Yeah. I mean, I can't remember what I said to this day, but I just feel that there was always a bit of an atmosphere, because you know it's like when there was always a group of us as well, the riders. There was like 4 or 5 week in, week out, whereas, you know, I know there's a few guys in BSB now that are coming through, but there's always been a group, and there was always a little bit of atmosphere, because one, you didn't want to let your guard down, and you just you sort of didn't want to show your cards, you know. So I felt like we were all a little bit on edge, and we probably said certain things sometimes that we might not have wanted to say, but adrenaline was still pumping, though.
Luke said, if Yamaha stayed in World Superbikes after 2011 and signed you up as a rider, how do you think you would have done on the world stage?
So just to give you a bit of an insight, Sean was close to getting a deal done with PlayStation. So I was doing the designs. So I was doing some designs in 2011 for us to go World Superbikes with PlayStation 3.
Wow.
It never happened,
Obviously,
unfortunately.
yeah.
But at the end of mid to end of 2011, I was actually in talks with so many space cadets. So I was having meetings in McLaren. I was at meetings with Aprilia, all for a World Superbike opportunity, but it never happened. But yeah, it would have been the icing on the cake if we could have stepped up into World Superbikes with the team that I was with Yamaha. But as we all know, budgets are far more, and then you've got to have more technicians, more data technicians. It's just a lot more infrastructure in place to go and do a good job. And again, whether I'm eating my words here, but if we would have had the opportunity to go to World Superbikes without the right package, I might not have wanted to go.
Yeah.
Because we all know how competitive it is, and you need to be on the right package with the right infrastructure.
Otherwise, you're wasting your time, basically, aren't you? Yeah. Andy Hosking said, "What's your most embarrassing moment of your? You can either do your life or your career."
Wow, most embarrassing time. There's been probably quite a few, especially when I've crashed the bike or thrown it down the road. But
What about pub crack? You know, what's your most... Oh, yeah. You know, you want the world to swallow you up outside of racing.
probably 5 weeks ago when I my rear wheel come out of my road bike and
But your pedal, is this a pedal?
yeah,
All right.
like touch wood, I've only had one crash on my my road bike, and this was the second one, and it was huge. So the rear wheel come out, and luckily enough there wasn't any cars behind me, but the cars come around the turn and I'm on the floor crawling off, thinking it was the first time I really felt old. My bones were sore, I was winded, I was blood pouring out of everywhere. All the cars were stopping, wanting to take me to A&E, with the rear wheel on the floor, everyone asking what happened, but I didn't want to say the rear wheel fell out because it looks like I didn't do it up properly. So
was that the case? Or like...
no, I don't really check the rear wheel. Like
bet you do now.
every few weeks because it's locked in. But yeah, now I'll definitely make sure. But yeah, no, like yeah, I suppose embarrassing moments. I don't know. You try and forget about them moments, don't you? But that was one recent one anyway. Yeah, rear wheel coming out the push bike.
Good question here from Termu. She said, "What's the so like most people have that hopper." The last lap that we just watched before
iconic,
is the best 2 laps or the best last lap of as a viewer. What aside from that, what's been as a spectator, what's been like the best lap you've ever watched racing? I've got 2 in my head, but
probably Lorenzo and Rossi one. Yeah, that was amazing. Last few corners.
That's one
also actually Hodgie and Walker, Donington Park. Yeah, BSB battle.
Who were you a most fan of back then?
Well, at that time, we was this 2000
wasn't it?
Yeah, but yeah. So we had just stepped. We didn't know anyone. We were so green to road racing. It was all about motocross. So we turned up. We don't know who anyone was, but obviously we heard of Walker and Hodgie. But yeah, they were like idols to me then. You know, I was like, wow, what's this? You know, they're superstars. And yeah, that was a race, real good race.
Who were your heroes in growing up?
So probably motocross riders, to be fair. Yeah, like Jeremy McGrath, Ricky Carmichael, Stefan Everts, Paul Malin. So yeah.
You know, with your attitude, that's obviously at a very young age that you want to win, be at the front. You hopped on your road, you know, your road legal, like 125, bombing around the place. You know, how long did it take to shake the, you know, I wish I became a motocross world champion? You know,
I still love motocross. Like I watch it, and I love watching motocross. And Johnny Ray was still the same. Like
he actually, there was an article years ago, and he said I think it was like the opening of like, I'm a failed motocross racer.
Johnny was quick. I mean, I left, and then Johnny was quick. But yeah, I think we just forgot about that, and we're into something new. You know, we're into a clean paddock with no mud. You know, no welly boots.
But you know, when you were a kid looking at posters, you know, that's still your first dream.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's wow.
Yeah. I mean, for me, yeah, it was always motocross and following that. Don't get me wrong. You know, as time went on through road racing, it's Rossi.
Oh yeah, change.
But I think we were just so engrossed into our motocross that we didn't know what else went on in the world. To be fair.
And last question, Lawrence Remington, and it said, what tracks would you like to see come back on the BSB calendar, or some maybe that they haven't been to before? Do you feel like BSB's missing any like really hidden gems in the UK?
Yeah, I mean, you got your Croft that's not on the calendar now, Mallory Park. The lap times the guys are doing, I feel the lap times and, you might disagree, the evenness in the championship. So the controlled electronics, controlled tyres. There's, as we were talking about earlier on in the podcast, there isn't a bike out there that's 10 miles an hour faster on a straight, or a bike that can turn way better than everyone else. And there's such a close grid with you guys now.
Yeah.
To go to some of them older tracks with less runoff and less room for mishaps or passes, I think it could prove problematic.
Yeah.
Because for you guys to make passes now, you've got to find a big chunk of time on the brakes into a turn to make that move, which will become a lot harder for the series director, especially when these guys are out there bashing fairings and trying to make passes.
Yeah.
Every move's going to be tighter. So I feel like these old tracks, like your Mallory's, are probably
sort of the series has kind of outgrown them a little bit.
Yeah, I believe so. But Mallory is always a good one for me. A nice environment. Sort of almost like a cathedral feel with the guys up all on the back bank when you're coming through the bus stop, and that was a nice track. I used to like Croft as well, but Mallory maybe.
Mm-hmm. I always ask this question. I feel like roads. When you first got on a road, like a race bike.
Yeah.
Got watched a little bit of the TT. Was there a mad man in you to think, I fancy a go at that? Or was that...
No, because I feel like deep down I was like, could I control myself?
Interesting.
That would be my worry, because I feel, you go there, I don't know. I've just been to watch in 2014 and it was mind-boggling, especially when most of the guys and you're saying hello and you go and watch, you're like, whoa. But most of the guys that I do speak to, they say it's not as bad as it looks. But I feel like you've got to be able to ride with a different mentality there. But I felt like if I did go there, you've got to try and manage yourself, and that would have been my worry, whether I could have managed myself to maybe later on in my career. I was a bit more mature the way I was riding, but maybe earlier on,
you want to win.
Probably would have been a bit of a mess, maybe.
Yeah, very honest answer. Very honest. There'd be people shouting at me, not asking the question. I thought we better get a road question in there. There we go.
Well, that's everything for me.
Yeah, you're Dave Neal's now.
Well, obviously, best of luck within the team this weekend.
Chrissy, all the best.
And for the rest of the season, I think obviously Brad's currently leading the championship.
Yeah, Brad's leading the championship.
By how many points?
Yeah.
You got
216, I think, maybe.
Yeah.
But he's riding really well, and I feel like the guys as well know we can probably move forward with the package with the bike as well. It's early days at the moment. It's new for the team, the Yamaha Switch, so it's early days.
I'm going to put you on the spot. Hold on, it's gone up to 8 now, the showdown, isn't it?
Yes.
Who's going to be in the showdown?
So Brad, Carl, as I say, Taz, Bridewell, O'Halloran, Eden,
right?
Jackson, and
2 more.
Put on the spot now. Rory Skinner.
That's it.
Yeah. Oh, that is it. Sorry. Sorry. Speak that I can't count.
Good job, you're a mathematician. And maybe Brooks.
Maybe Brooks.
If things comes together, because we've seen it in the past. It's not quite started well, and Brooks has come really strong at the end. So we'll see.
I know we're wrapping things up, but have you been surprised by? Obviously, you've just missed out Haslam and Sykes, and coming into the championship, I personally thought that them two were going to be right at the sharp end. Have you been surprised by their lack of?
Yeah, don't get me wrong, they're world-class riders, but I feel the top guys in BSB are world-class riders as well, if the package is right and the environment's right for them. But it's just tough.
Yeah.
It is tough. Everyone's riding fast, everyone's riding hard, and it's a packed grid with talent, Chrissy.
Don't I know?
But it is, it's a tough championship, and maybe they're more surprised than people that are involved in the paddock. But I think everything needs to be right, and you're only trying to find that split second, and it's not easy.
Outside of your two lads, who's the person who's most impressed you this year? And no, in fact, chuck your lads in there, everyone. Who's been who's been the lad who's stepped up and gone, I didn't expect that off him this year?
Someone that I can think of I think most people have been impressed with this year more than Lee Jackson.
I was going to say, Lee, he's heart on the sleeve, genuine guy, and he's always there and thereabouts. I think if he can put a full season together, he's
So far, I'd say he's been like the biggest thorn in Yamaha's side.
100%. Yeah. So, and I feel for him, I mean, over the past few years, FS3 haven't had two riders. I feel two riders is a big positive for a team, especially when everything's so even.
Mm-hmm.
I feel it's important for two riders to be able to excel together in the team, and I feel Rory coming in as well into that team has helped push Leon.
Mm-hmm.
And they're both competitive. The bike's working well, so that I feel like them two will push each other to more podiums and a showdown spot and maybe a title challenge.
Yeah. Brilliant. Well, us two are up at Cadwell Park on Wednesday.
Oh shit, we are,
27. So we've got a Bennett's track. It's the first time I've done something like that, so really looking forward to that. And massive thank you, obviously, to yourself for sparing your time on an evening when I know you could be at home.
Pleasure.
And really.
It doesn't mean that, but no, I'm joking.
Really appreciate your time.
So you got any text from the wife now? She's not married yet. Feel good.
Massive thank you to our sponsors, Colchester Kawasaki, and to our patrons as well. All the best this weekend for the rest of the season, and catch up soon.
Thank you very much.
Awesome. Cheers, mate. Thank you.
Chasin The Racin, powered by Colchester Kawasaki. Part of the Global Moto Group, we supply new Aprilia, Moto Guzzi, Vespa, Royal Enfield, Kawasaki, Sim, Mutt and Benelli motorcycles.